best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
I'm John Dickerson.
I'm Maurice Dubois.
Part of the all-new CBS Evening News.
Powerful opening statements in the Hollywood overdose murder trial. David Pierce and Brant Osborne on trial for the deaths of two women, model Christy Giles and her architect friend Hilda Cabrales.
This trial will not change what happened and will not bring my sister back or Christy.
Christy's plan for the evening was to go out with some friends and have a fun night.
Aloha!
My name is Jan Celia, and Christy was my wife. Christy loved to spread joy and laughter wherever she went. Hilda Marcela just moved from Mexico. She seemed very lovely, and they were becoming fast friends.
My sister did enjoy going out to parties. She liked dancing and the music. I remember seeing her Instagram. She was posting stories of that night.
She sent me a couple of text messages. Her last text message to me was around 1 or 2 a.m. And throughout the day, I was trying to text her, and there was no response.
You're tracking Christy's phone.
Yeah.
Is this an address that you recognize?
It's not an address I know. Around 5 p.m., I saw her location had suddenly moved to an emergency room hospital. My level of panic is growing and growing. I just knew that I had to try and get to the bottom of what happened.
You blast out this address, and very quickly you get responses.
Yeah.
What are those responses?
That there's somebody that lives at this location that is a very unsavory person.
David Pierce.
Yeah. He passed himself off as a big shot Hollywood producer, but he was a con man with an alleged history of sexual assault.
It wasn't clear what happened. We just knew she overdosed, and to me, my reaction was, who did this to her?
So when you heard overdose, you immediately thought drugged.
Yeah, drugged.
Yeah.
Definitely not something that she would have done to herself ever. It's just not her.
Got a call at home, apparent overdose. Christy, she was deceased. Hilda was still on life support at that time.
I give as much information as I can to the detectives.
Jan had put a number of things out on social media, and it spread like wildfire. People recognized this guy right away, and they were urged to call us.
Authorities say 7 more women have come forward claiming Pierce sexually assaulted them as well.
Jane Doe number 1, Jane Doe number 2, Jane Doe number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7.
Being a Jane Doe, we are the voice of both Christy and Hilda because they can't talk.
Defendant Pierce wanted them to die. He wanted them to die because dead girls don't talk.
I think I asked direct questions. I don't know that they're tough questions per se. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives? So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like healthcare. That's the role of Face the Nation, to focus on the issues at hand. That means a civil conversation with perspective.
Sunday morning, Wicked Oscar nominee Cynthia Erivo. A few words from Flo, plus 100 years of The New Yorker. Listen for the trumpet.
It was almost like being face to face with the devil.
Women riding bicycles dismembered.
She just vanished.
48 hours reports. I fought and fought.
911, what is your emergency?
She disappeared off the face of the earth.
Ever think in your wildest dreams someone might want to kill you?
This almost became a game of psychological warfare.
You're caught. You're gonna go down.
Stream 48 hours, 24/7.
CBS Sunday night.
Here we go.
The ultimate tradition continues.
From what I've seen, it's like chaos.
America's longest running news magazine show is back.
For 60 minutes!
60 minutes.
With a new season.
Hey, let's go.
You're willing to talk about anything.
I'm open to all of it. Ask me the hard-hitting questions.
So how do you get over the nerves? Honestly, it's a whole bunch of mind
The most influential people.
Who's the best coach in college football?
Let me see a mirror so I can look at it.
Are you a billionaire yet?
None of your business. Ain't you trying to get me robbed?
Investigative journalism.
Am I getting a real look at what life is like in here today? Absolutely not.
Do you think people visiting know that these were looted?
When stories threaten our way of life, 60 Minutes demands answers.
This is the pager that Hezbollah was using.
Do you have hope that you may find him yet?
They were asking me to do something that was illegal.
They're fighting for faulty parts?
Yeah. What is the most important takeaway for our audience?
How big of a problem is doping?
Where was the military?
Why are people suspicious?
That sounds like a problem.
How is this possible?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
What is going on?
I'm Scott Pelley.
I'm John Worth.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Bill Whitaker.
I'm Sharon Alfonsi.
I'm Cecilia Vega.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
This is 60 Minutes.
The CBS News original.
Showtime, baby.
It's time for 60 Minutes Sunday on CBS. Don't miss a minute. Now streaming. What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
I'm not asking that we ignore disability, rather that we do not ignore ability.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
For a fresh case, it's all on you. There's no one else is going to solve this thing for you. It's you and your partner. That's it.
And in November 2021, Detective Jonathan Vanderlei and Detective Calvin Yu had to figure out why a lifeless woman was left at this emergency room. This video from Southern California Hospital shows staff pulling a woman out of a black Prius and helping her onto a stretcher while two men look on. When the stretcher moves into the ER, it becomes clear the car has no license plates. Detective Vanderlei would later learn that the two men told the staff they found the woman, quote, passed out on the curb somewhere nearby, and they were trying to be good Samaritans. They left without giving their names or phone numbers.
They were masked, disguised.
This must be adding up to something that sounds very sketchy to you.
Very sketchy, but then you still have to figure out if an actual crime occurred.
The woman was Christy Giles, and her mother, Dusty, will never forget the call that came from the hospital, telling her her 24-year-old daughter was dead from a drug overdose.
And I said, "What do you mean she didn't make it?" And then I hung up and I fell apart.
2 hours later, at a hospital just 2 miles away, a second woman was left at another emergency room by the same two men, also in a black Prius and wearing masks.
They never give their names, never leave their phone numbers, license plates, anything like that.
That was Hilda Marcela Cabrales. The 26-year-old architect was still alive in the ICU and fighting for her life. And in Durango, Mexico, her mother, Hilda Marcela Plasencia, was getting the news about her eldest daughter and namesake.
She was very bad. She was intubated.
You are a doctor.
What was going on in your mind at the time?
What happened? What happened to her? Why is she that bad?
And in the earliest hours of the investigation, there were only questions. How could this happen to Christy? It was an unimaginable ending to a life bursting with exuberance.
Let's do some donuts!
Christy was an adventurer, traveling the world as a high-fashion model for Wilhelmina. She ultimately made LA her home.
Christy Giles, I live in Venice, California, and I am an artist.
At 21, her life took a dramatic turn. She met Jan Cillier, a South African-born artist, photographer, and special effects editor, 17 years her senior. They'd been together 7 months when the couple went to Burning Man, an arts festival in the Nevada desert, where impulsively they took a big leap.
We just decided to elope. We just got married right there. We said to each other that, you know, life's very short, so we kind of really just proposed to each other, and the next day we got married.
After they got married, Christy started studying interior design in Los Angeles, which led to a new friendship with Hilda Marcella. Hilda had just moved there to start her dream job, recalls her father, Luis.
I feel very happy for her, but very sad for me, because we are very close.
No one was surprised that the cum laude graduate of the prestigious university in Monterrey, Mexico, was thriving in LA, especially her sister Fernanda.
She was always making a lot of friends, talkative, outgoing, just having a good time and meeting people that they also like the music, that they are also enjoying dancing.
Dancing, as this video shows, is what the two friends were doing that night. Christy's husband, Jan, was out of town visiting his father. He knew she and Hilda had planned a girls' night out, starting at Soho House, and then onto a warehouse party after midnight to see a favorite DJ. A friend who was with them said they did ketamine, a popular club drug. But by the next day, Jan was on his way home, knowing Christy was gone.
In less than 24 hours, your world was turned upside down.
Shattered. Yeah.
Hilda's father and mother rushed to be by her side. When they arrived, they found their daughter on life support.
My heart broke in 1,000 pieces because I saw my baby unconscious. I'm fighting for her life.
I said, is this real? Am I dreaming? I took her hand and I said, Mom's here with you. You're not alone.
Christy's autopsy revealed that in addition to ketamine, she had cocaine, fentanyl, and GHB, known as the date rape drug, in her system.
Are these drugs that Christy would take willingly?
I mean, that combination of drugs sounds deadly to me, so, like, no.
Jan needed answers, so he began to build a timeline based on the digital trail Christy left behind, information gathered from her messages and phone, which he was able to track.
I wanted to get to the bottom of exactly what happened that night.
He already knew what she'd been doing before she went out for the evening.
She was enjoying a lovely sunset. She took our cat for a walk on the beach.
Sand Panther, oh, whoa.
Those were the last pictures she sent me of herself. And she said, I wish you were here, and I will forever wish that I was there too.
Jan was able to track Christy's phone to a residence located at 8641 West Olympic Boulevard. At 5:30 a.m., Christy sends Hilda a wide-eye emoji and says, "Let's go." Hilda replies, "I'll call an Uber." 10 minutes away.
The fact that they're both in the same house, text messaging each other, they need to leave, is very worrying.
That was the last text message that Christy or Hilda ever sent. That Uber arrived waited 5 minutes, and drove away empty.
How did you process that?
I mean, it's just confirming my worst fears again, that they were there at that place against their will.
Can see clearly now. Clearly, CBS Mornings.
Weekdays on CBS.
Yeah!
Tony, coming?
No, I'm gonna stick around for an hour.
CBS Mornings Plus with Adriana Diaz and Tony DeCopel, right after CBS Mornings.
It's just like mornings.
Plus fun. Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
Politics isn't a game. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives? Politics is about policy. So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like healthcare? I'm a voracious consumer of information, and I'm impatient. I don't like to be spun. Do you know if there are active terror cells in the United States right now? To be moderator of Face the Nation means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
While America's relaxing policies around social media and the internet, Germany is cracking down on lies and vitriol online.
How do people react when you take their phones from them?
They are shocked.
Which approach makes more sense? Plus, Timothy Chalamet only on 60 Minutes.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go with the 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes.
Like a John Grisham novel come to life.
Real lives.
He pointed a gun to me and said, "This is the day you die." And he shot me.
Real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
I'm an innocent man, and I hope the whole world can see it now.
Catch the latest episodes. Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
The all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This is CBS.
What's going on in your mind from that detective standpoint when you're about to arrive at a scene?
You don't want to form an opinion prior to getting there, but you are kind of mulling over the evidence. You're thinking about it, you're thinking about what questions you want to ask.
Acting on information supplied by Jan, LAPD detective Jonathan Vanderley and his partner headed here to 8641 West Olympic Boulevard a little after midnight on November 14th, only a few hours after getting that call from the second hospital.
And this is where the Uber that Christia and Hilda called that night would have waited.
Right out front, yep.
10 minutes between life and death.
That's all it takes.
It was the home of 39-year-old David Pierce. Police would learn Christy and Hilda had met him for the first time at that warehouse party. Police also discovered Pierce had a registration for a black Prius and found it parked behind the building. It matched the car seen at both hospitals down to the black rims. Pierce lived on the second floor with a roommate, Brant Osborne, 42.
There was a light on in the upstairs where the two men live. So I just went up, knocked on the door. Immediately, the lights go out.
You identify yourself.
Yes, completely. LAPD, open the door, and then just complete silence.
After about 15 minutes, he says, Pierce and Osborne came out. Pierce denied owning a Prius.
So I immediately get a lie.
Do you leave?
No, I interview Mr. Osborne.
At first, he says, Osborne denied seeing Christy and Hilda at all.
He changes his stories numerous times. At first, there's no girls had been at that location whatsoever. I tell him on the interview, listen, I know you're lying. It's extremely obvious. You're very nervous.
Vanderlee says Osborne eventually admitted the women had been at their apartment, but said he'd been asleep, and when he woke up, realized Christy and Hilda were in distress. He said he and Pierce chose to go to 2 separate hospitals because, quote, we didn't know how it would look. Pierce, police say, did later admit he owned the Prius, but lied again, saying his license plates had been stolen. Vanderlee says he saw those plates on the ground by the vehicle. Then the men agreed to let detectives inside.
2 beds had been stripped. There was a washing machine that had been recently used. It was still wet.
Is anything else that stands out to you?
There was a safe in his room with baggies, which is indicative of narcotics. He said they're for crafts, for arts and crafts.
By now, Vanderlee says he knew Pierce and Osborne had dropped Hilda and Christy off and believed Pierce had drugged them, but he didn't have enough evidence to make an arrest.
He thought he beat us that night for sure. He was happy.
He smiled and said goodbye.
Yeah.
Thanks, detectives.
Yep.
But that wasn't where it ended for you.
No, not by a long shot.
Vanderlee knew he needed more evidence and turned to his colleague, Detective Calvin Yu.
You hear the name David Pierce. What goes on in your mind?
Well, the first thing is, who did he sexually assault this time?
Detective Yu had investigated Pierce in 2020 for sexually assaulting a 19-year-old.
She was raped while she was unconscious.
The victim said Pierce had given her drugs to knock her out during a date, but the investigation had stalled and wasn't prosecuted at the time. Detective Yu knew Pierce had other prior charges, including another rape charge from 2014 that was also not prosecuted.
He has a pattern. His first step is trying to find his victim. So that could be through a dating app, through online listings, or meeting them at bars or events. When he picks his victim, he goes to step 2, which is bragging about himself.
Pierce relies on lies, detectives say, to set his trap.
He needed to introduce himself as a producer, as a doctor, all these different things. He's none of these things. I think he might have been an intern at the time or something at a production company.
An intern?
Yeah.
They say his next step is to drug his victims and incapacitate them, often with a drink.
After they take this drink, he goes to step 4, which is the sexual assault.
Police would learn both Christy and Hilda showed signs of sexual assault, but they feared they would face challenges making the case.
How difficult is it to prove a crime took place when the victims were recreationally using drugs?
This makes the case extremely hard. I had told Jan early on that this was going to be a near impossible a case to prove.
Here comes a big one.
What I've seen, it's like chaos.
This is the pager that Hezbollah was using.
How is this possible?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
Ask me the hard-hitting questions. I'm open to all of it.
60 minutes. Is this what you want?
60 minutes.
60 minutes!
It's time for the CBS News original, 60 Minutes. Sundays on CBS.
When you need your sports news all the time,
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
A great adventure together.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
So cool.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
Something that's undeniable.
With mindfulness.
Innovative.
Magical.
It's like being a child.
And truly original reporting.
How'd you do your research?
I tell a good story.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is clear.
Actually, two things. Pretty sure it's three.
Guys, whether it's news, money, health, or wellness, sports, movies, or even inspiration.
Clearly, CBS Mornings is the place to be. That's like 7 things.
Okay, clearly, I'm bad at math, always been.
Clearly.
Oh, okay,
Clearly.
okay. Clearly, CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7 on CBS.
What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
Anyone that doesn't agree women should be in the submarine force has to ask themselves why they would think about that.
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
Life is a little bit different now.
It's gonna take a while to get used to. And I say it to myself that I can't make this about me.
When we put people before politics.
What would happen if it was harder for Mexican residents to come over to work in Presidio?
I think we'd be in serious trouble.
Are you okay, ma'am?
What happens when you experience the story?
I'm shocked at how devastated this neighborhood is. How bad is it in your house?
Look at it.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
Here in Chicago.
Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
Yeah, at first it's a whodunit. It just became what actually happened, and that's what was the difficulty with this case.
Detective Jonathan Vanderlei says the pressure was on to locate any evidence of what happened after Christy and Hilda met David Pierce that night.
Video starts expiring. These DVRs, it's a constant. You got to get this evidence before it disappears.
Police did have some luck, starting with this footage from outside that warehouse party, which they say shows the women leaving with Pierce, Osborne, and a friend of theirs, 47-year-old Michael Ansbach, on their way to Pierce's apartment. Police also uncovered this text exchange from moments earlier when the women were still inside that party. "Do you want Coke?" asks Hilda. "Yes," replies Christy. Hilda texted back, "I'm in the kitchen. Let's do a line." Witnesses say Pierce supplied that cocaine, which Jan says was not a common choice for Christy.
Maybe it was late at night and she wanted to get less high. It's not something she would do regularly.
Police determined the group arrived at Pierce's apartment a little after 5 a.m. The women aren't seen again until 11 hours later, when at 4:30 in the afternoon, a security camera recorded this grainy image showing Pierce with Christy over his shoulder at the top of the stairs. Police say Osborne is carrying her bag. 35 minutes later, at the hospital, Pierce, wearing a black sweatshirt, helps take Christy's body out of the car. Osborne looks on. A full hour and a half later, this dark image shows the men leaving the apartment again with Hilda. Police say Pierce is carrying her, and Osborne has her boots and coat. Half an hour later, the Prius arrives at that second hospital where the men take Hilda out of the car together. It had been more than 13 hours since Christy texted Hilda, "Let's go." For 2 weeks, Hilda was on life support. With no hope of regaining consciousness, her family gathered to say their goodbyes.
Hilda, what were your final moments with your daughter?
They were so hard, you know. And I just was asking God to not let her suffer more. I remember telling her that you can leave. And just thanking her for being my sister.
I told her, maybe when I pass away, I will see you again. And I give you a big hug, a kiss.
The family decided to donate Hilda's organs. Her mom remembers the medical staff lining the halls as the family accompanied Hilda to the OR.
The medical team was clapping to honor her, to say thank you for giving life to others.
Like Christy, Hilda had suffered a drug overdose. Toxicology reports would later reveal that she had cocaine, MDMA or ecstasy, and elevated levels of fentanyl in her system. Police would also learn that while the women were in that apartment, the downstairs neighbor heard someone in pain and moaning on and off for 6 hours. Police believe that was Hilda. Neither Pierce nor Osborne nor Ansbach called for help.
It makes me get angry because she was suffering and nobody helped her.
How hard is it to prove this narrative when the victims can't even testify on their own behalf?
If we were just investigating Christy and Hilda's alone, very difficult.
But the district attorney at the time went public, asking other women who knew Pierce to call in so police could better understand what he did to Hilda and Christy.
If you feel comfortable moving forward so that we can evaluate your case and charge it, we're here for you.
We started getting a lot of calls.
As police continued building their case, Jan received a call that Pierce and Osborne were on the move. He recorded this video of the men loading up a moving van the day after Hilda died. Police say Pierce had also changed his phone number, and it took them a week to locate him again.
So the pressure is on. You got to get this guy.
I got to come up with something quick, yes.
Police have arrested 3 men in connection with the deaths of a model and her friend last month.
On December 15, 2021, David Pierce, Brant Osborne, and Michael Ansbach were arrested in connection with Hilda and Christy's deaths. The detectives still knew next to nothing about what had happened inside that apartment. Vanderlee says they decided to take a gamble and bring the men in.
This is the only way we're going to get the info we need.
Once the men were in custody, police conducted interviews with them, one by one.
Kind of played with the rotation, and it worked out exceedingly well.
They secretly recorded Pierce and Osborne while Ansbach was talking to police.
Pierce says, I hope Ansbach's not up there telling him I gave them drugs and wine.
When it was his turn, Pierce denied giving the women drugs.
He was told it was like a very bad batch of fentanyl that was going around.
This was suspicious because information that the women had likely died from fentanyl had not been released.
I knew these girls died from fentanyl, but nobody else knew.
2 months after his arrest, Ansbach reached out to police with details of what he says he witnessed that night. He says Pierce had offered the women a ride to an after party and then said he needed to make a quick stop at his house. Ansbach says Pierce was very insistent they stay and have a drink. And after the women talked about leaving, Pierce gave all 3 of them so-called special cocaine. Ansbach says he, Christy and Hilda got sick immediately, and when he woke up hours later, he saw Christy without any signs of life. Ansbach says he told Pierce to take Christy and Hilda to the hospital, and says Pierce then said repeatedly, quote, "Dead girls don't talk."
I wouldn't say survivor. I'm a fighter. That's what I am.
But police had at least one woman who could talk about David Pierce at his upcoming trial.
He asked me if I wanted a drink, but it tasted really funny. And then I don't remember the next several hours after that.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
This was an entire building. It will take years to rebuild.
We're from CBS News, American television.
You get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This case,
it's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Like a John Grisham novel.
A gripping true crime original. 48 hours. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is clear.
CBS Mornings is the best way to start your day.
I can see clearly now.
My morning routine.
The first thing I do when I wake up is turn off the alarm.
I try to remember where I put my phone down.
One alarm goes off at 4 a.m.
I need not 1, not 2, but...
And I'm out the door at 4:15.
3 snoozes to get out of bed fully coherent.
How much detail are you looking for?
I love a bath full of bubbles. The more bubbles, the better.
I'm very quick with the actual coffee, shave, shower, dressed out the door, but all around that is just pure chaos. For example, this morning, these are dirty socks.
You want my honest answer? Am I a morning person? I gotta be honest. I wish mornings started at like 10 a.m.
Can I say that? Clearly.
It's a bright, bright, bright way to start your day. CBS Mornings weekdays at 7 on CBS.
People with developmental disabilities were once sequestered by the hundreds of thousands in institutions.
Many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower.
Disability activists have since torn down barriers blocking them from living at home or in the community.
We conclude that Title II of the ADA requires states to provide community-based treatment for persons with mental disabilities.
But of the 16,000 people who remain in state-operated institutions, half are in 5 states, and Illinois is one of them.
I don't want to live in the institution. It makes me feel discriminated against.
Do you think there are people living in institutions in Illinois that don't need to be living there?
Yeah, because they're proving it as soon as they get out.
What happens when we follow the human side of the headline?
I was in tears.
Life is a little bit different now.
It's gonna take a while to get used to. And I said to myself that I can't make this about me.
You get the all-new CBS Evening News.
January 9th, 2025. Opening arguments begin in the trial of David Pierce, charged with felony murder, and Bran Osborne, charged with accessory after the fact.
The evidence will show that the defendant knowingly gave Hilda and Chrissy GHB and fentanyl, knowing that it was dangerous to their lives, knowing that it could kill them, but he just didn't care. Defendant Osborne helped him get rid of any evidence to implicate Defendant Pierce in the deaths of Chrissy and Hilda.
Prosecutor Catherine Mariano has marshaled the forensic evidence to make her case. The toxicology results that found fentanyl in both women and the date rape drug GHB in Christy, Also, Pierce's DNA discovered on Christie's body and under Hilda's fingernails.
This is no accident. This is no mistake.
But in order to prove felony murder, she must show that Pierce incapacitated Christie and Hilda to rape them. Without their testimony, she needs to establish he had a history of doing this to other women, putting drugs in their drinks, and then sexually assaulting them.
He didn't care whether they lived or died. All he cared about was taking advantage of them.
Here's where there's a problem.
But defense attorney Jeff Vall says the fact that Christie and Hilda were using drugs before meeting Pierce that night means there is no case for murder.
These young ladies unfortunately ingested fentanyl and they died. It's a shame. But Mr. Pierce didn't kill him.
Vall is sixth in a long line of lawyers who have represented David Pierce in this case. He knows his client is problematic.
He's very demanding. He's very sure of himself. What David Pierce wants, David Pierce gets.
He pushes her onto the bed.
Mariano has her own version of who David Pierce is, based on the accounts of the women who talked to investigators and chose to be anonymous.
Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe number 2, Jane Doe number 3, number 4, 5, or 6, number 7.
It was important for me to come forward and, get any information I could regarding this vile man.
Jackie is Jane Doe number 2. No cameras were allowed in the courtroom for any of the testimony, but she agreed to talk with us about her experience with Pierce in 2010, when she was a 24-year-old law student looking for a room to rent. She testified about her meeting with Pierce at his apartment on West Olympic Boulevard, where he gave her a tour and offered a drink.
I started to spin and, I just became disoriented.
You drink this drink, you start to feel dizzy, I'm sure confused. What happens next?
So the next thing I know, he was, basically trying to rape me. So I started fighting him back.
According to Jackie, he continued to assault her.
He threw me onto the floor. He punched me in the face.
When she tried to take her phone out, he grabbed her arm so hard, the phone flew and smashed into the wall. Unsteady on her feet and unable to call for help, she did everything she could to escape.
I had to crawl down the stairs. I was so disoriented, and crawl down West Olympic Boulevard to my car, screaming for help.
Though seriously injured and traumatized, she did not report it.
There's a huge stigma that surrounds women that come forward with sexual assault.
But when she heard about Christie and Hilda, she decided to act. In all, 20 women came forward. Pierce was charged with 7 sexual assaults. Detective Calvin Yu thinks that's just a fraction of those who suffered at the hands of David Pierce.
Are there more Jane Does out there?
Yes, I would definitely say so.
How many do you believe?
I say 100.
100? That's incredible, and that's just based on the people that you have spoken with directly.
Yes.
I'm just so grateful that they came forward, and I can't even imagine how the level of bravery that you have to have in order to testify to a room of strangers that you were so intimately violated.
And as the women testified one by one, defense attorney Vall could see what was happening. The prosecution strategy was working.
The victims come into court testifying, some who broke down in tears, all gave the same testimony, and I am watching the jury. They're looking at him, and the expression on the jurors' faces are like, how could you? How could you do this?
After the Jane Does testified, the prosecution called Pierce's friend, Michael Ansbach, who was in the apartment that night and later arrested along with Pierce and Osborne. Ansbach took this video of Christie and Hilda minutes after Pierce gave them wine and cocaine at the apartment.
Christie's lying on the couch. It looks like she's on her way to becoming unconscious.
In his testimony, Ansbach again said he also used the same cocaine, got violently ill, and then passed out. When he woke up, he said Pierce asked him to check on Christy, and when he did, Ansbach said it looked like she was not breathing. Hilda, he said, was in Pierce's bedroom. According to Ansbach, this is when Pierce told him, "Dead girls don't talk." Like Pierce and Osborne, Ansbach never called for help. His charges were later dropped. On day 11, and against the advice of his attorney, David Pierce, who pleaded not guilty, was sworn in and testified.
So he got on the stand and he did his best to try to say everybody was wrong and he was right.
He was apparently the only one telling the truth at the entire trial.
On the 12th day, Pierce's roommate Brant Osborne, who also pleaded not guilty, takes the stand.
So Osborne's role was to help get rid of the bodies, first and foremost. He helped carry the girls at first. He helped formulate the plan in terms of what they're going to tell the security guards.
Osborne testified he was dumbfounded by Pierce's behavior and was emotional, crying more than once on the stand, saying he played no part in a cover-up because he didn't have a complete picture of what was really going on. Jan, for one, was not buying it.
He's basically claiming to be an innocent bystander in the situation and that he's also a victim in the situation, but there are facts that prove that he helped David Pierce cover it up.
The question is whether the jury will believe either man. After 3 weeks, the trial took a toll on Christy's family.
We sat and had to hold our mouth closed while they battered, and I feel like they destroyed my daughter's reputation.
It was definitely difficult being in the same room as them. Did I have an overwhelming urge to throw something really hard at their heads? Yeah.
In closing, prosecutor Mariano hits back at the defense. Just because Christy and Hilda did drugs on their own that night doesn't make them responsible for their own deaths. David Pierce took care of that, Mariano argued.
He didn't care about violating them in the most awful way. He didn't care that by drugging Christy and Hilda, that they could die.
And she repeats the words of Ansbach attributed to David Pierce, the words that rang in the ears of everyone who loved Christy and Hilda.
He wanted them to die because dead girls don't talk.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
Attorneys for Osborne and Pierce told jurors there simply was not enough direct evidence linking them to the crime, and that there's a strong case for reasonable doubt. Now, it's up to the jury to draw its own conclusion about Brant Osborne and David Pierce. Justy Giles made her decision a long time ago.
Pierce is a sick, slimy lizard that sits and preys and sneaks, and his bite is deadly.
CBS Mornings is clearly fun.
Money saving. Dollar Jill's here to tell us what it means for you.
Clearly delish.
So what's on the menu today?
Clearly, CBS Mornings weekdays at 7 on CBS.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
Write a prescription for the healing of America.
We're retired and this is our paradise. Now it's gone.
You get the stories of America every night. You get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This is CBS.
progressively fallen deeper into the world of online sports betting.
The risk is the rush.
What do you think is driving the spike in popularity?
I think it's legality.
If it's legal, I'm going to use it. There are ways to bet when you are 18.
We've created an epidemic of child gambling.
You can't walk into a male dormitory in a college campus without sports betting happening.
It's America's most neglected problem.
I used sports betting as a way to escape, when in reality, I'm choosing self-destruction. Whatever I had left, it was gone.
The purpose of the industry is to get you to play to extinction. And that means until all your money is gone.
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
Ta-da!
I want to be part of this.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
You've probably heard of the NCIS from the hit TV series, but we're about to take you inside its real-life work. Listen to 48 Hours NCIS early and ad-free on the 48 Hours Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts.
Okay, let's go.
You guys good?
Start at the beginning.
All right, we good?
Keep going. The clock, it's ticking.
Off we go.
60 minutes. Is this what you want?
60 minutes.
60 minutes!
It's time for 60 Minutes, Sundays on CBS.
As we're sitting here waiting on the verdict for the case, I just want to, I'm here for it till the end.
For Christy's family, it's been a long and wrenching road to get here.
For you, what does justice for Christy look like?
I mean, there's no justice for Christy. There's only preventing him from doing it again, I think. That's the only justice we can get.
And for Hilda's mother, who could not travel to be in court, the last 3 years without her daughter have been its own trial.
Nothing can bring her back again. But the hole she lives in our lives will be always there.
February 4th, 2025, after 2 days of deliberations, the jury is back.
The matter of the people of the state of California versus David Brian Pierce, we, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, David Brian Pierce, guilty of the crime of first-degree murder upon Christy Giles.
David Pierce, guilty.
We get that guilty on the first one, and sigh of relief.
Guilty of the crime of first-degree murder upon Hilda Marcela Cabrera Arzola.
Hilda comes up, guilty again, another sigh of relief.
And then guilty of all the sexual assaults of 7 Jane Does.
I don't think I breathed at all until I heard a guilty on every single one.
A lot of relief, not just for my sake, but definitely for all of the victims.
Jane Does finally had their day in court and were believed.
I felt this huge weight released off me. It was almost like a euphoric feeling. We showed the jury what kind of man this is.
But the jury is deadlocked when it comes to Brant Osborne. A mistrial is declared.
I was surprised, definitely disappointed at the hung jury. I thought the trial made clear that he had definitely a hand in their deaths.
What is there to question? He was aware of Christy's and Hilda's condition. He's a grown man that stands on his own 2 feet. He withheld medical help from Hilda and Christy until they were dead.
I'm not happy. They perfectly could save her life, and they chose to not do it. For me, that's not justice, at least in that part.
I am here standing for me and Hilda's mom, Marcella.
Now, there's an unbreakable bond between the mothers who must live without their daughters.
Our daughters individually were like soul sisters. Both of them lost their souls. at the hand of the same man, same way, and that will be forever entwined.
And before she leaves the courthouse, there is a final plea from Dusty.
As much as it hurts to lose my baby girl, her body was able to tell the story. And her sharing her location, technology told us where she was, how long she was. So please, within your own families, share locations. You never know when you're gonna not be able to get in touch with somebody.
When you look at photos of Christy and Hilda, what do you see?
I see beauty. I see myself when I was 24. I will remember them as strong, independent women. I'll remember them as beautiful souls, free spirits, women that were coming to LA to pursue their dreams.
Two young women who loved their families, their animals, and their lives.
I want to remember her as the bright, beautiful soul that she was.
Fernanda, how do you hope your big sister is remembered?
As someone who had a lot of dreams, ambitions, very intelligent, funny, she was happy to be alive.
Need more time with 48 Hours? Go deep behind every true crime episode with first-hand accounts from 48 Hours Investigations.
Were you at all prepared for what happened in this case?
Shock is the word that comes to mind.
Get inside the twists and turns and get in on the case. Listen to Postmortem from 48 Hours, now available wherever you get your podcasts.
What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
Anyone that doesn't agree women should be in the submarine force has to ask themselves why they would think about that.
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
Life is a little bit different now.
It's gonna take a while to get used to. And I say it to myself that I can't make this about me.
When we put people before politics.
What would happen if it was harder for Mexican residents to come over to work in Presidio?
I think we'd be in serious trouble.
Are you okay, ma'am?
What happens when you experience the story?
I'm shocked at how devastated this neighborhood is. How bad is it in your house?
Look at it.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
Here in Chicago.
Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
Ready?
Yeah. You ready?
And 1, 2, 3. Hey!
I can see clearly now.
Look at his outfit. Amazing. Give me some love, baby.
We got a toy. Look at this.
Oh, no! Time for another quick meal you can make any night of the week.
We've got tips to save on clothes, tech,
and more.
How I got here is nothing short of like a miracle.
talent.
Talent?
It's a bright, bright, bright way to start your day.
See you
on CBS Mornings.
Here comes a big one.
What I've seen, it's like chaos.
This is the pager that Hezbollah was using.
How was this possible?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
Ask me the hard-hitting questions. I'm open to all of it.
60 minutes. Is this what you want?
60 minutes.
60 minutes!
It's time for the CBS News Original, 60 Minutes, Sundays on CBS.
I'm John Dickerson.
I'm Maurice Dubois.
Part of the all-new CBS Evening News.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go with 48 Hours Podcasts. Real crimes, real lives, real justice. Listen to 48 Hours Podcasts wherever you get your podcasts.
Clearly, we're starting your weekend bright with information, inspiration,
and entertainment.
Clearly, better weekends.
The good things in life. Are you impressed, guys?
I'm very impressed. It's all right here.
Angel Down's first love was the beach.
From the time we were kids, I think the beach was just always a part of her life. I'm Susan Bloodworth, Angel Downs' younger sister. Angel was a free spirit.
She was very loving and caring. Angel was a beautiful person with a very, very big heart.
Angel Downs was one of my best friends. My name is Stephen Nodine. I'm a former county commissioner in Mobile, Alabama, a former city council member, and a political operative. We loved each other. We loved being around each other. And I had a 6-year affair with her while I was married.
Stephen Nodine was a very well-liked politician. I'm Jack Tillman, former sheriff of Mobile County. He run with some pretty powerful people. And apparently he had connections in Washington.
When I first met him, he was very charming, very sweet to her.
She fell for him, she fell in love, but as time went on, she realized Stephen was not leaving his wife. Anytime she would try to end the relationship, he would get angry. Stephen Nodine had a double personality. One moment he was happy-go-lucky, but if you made him angry, he turned into a completely different person. I just asked her, I said, what is it gonna take for you to leave him? For him to kill you?
I never seen a violent side from him, never.
911, what is your emergency?
Someone's been shot.
Unit 501, female is laying on the ground, bleeding heavily, gunshot wound to the head.
Every bit of evidence showed it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
There was a red truck here, and he left very quickly, and I'm pretty sure the man's name is Stephen Nodine.
I've been wrongfully accused of the murder of Angel Downs.
There were several occasions where she said, I'm probably going to lose my life to him.
There's a lot of theories out there, but I know that when I have to meet the Lord God Almighty, I can stand up there and say that I did not shoot, harm, hurt Angel Downs in any form or fashion.
I was adamant. Her friends were adamant. We were all adamant it was not suicide. Stephen killed Angel.
I think I asked direct questions. I don't know that they're tough questions per se. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives? So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like healthcare. That's the role of Face the Nation, to focus on the issues at hand. That means a civil conversation with perspective.
Sunday morning, Wicked Oscar nominee Cynthia Erivo. A few words from Flo, plus 100 years of The New Yorker. Listen for the trumpet.
It was almost like being face-to-face with the devil.
Women riding bicycles dismembered.
She just vanished.
48 Hours reports.
I fought and fought.
911, what is your emergency?
She disappeared off the face of the earth.
Ever think in your wildest dreams someone might want to kill you?
This almost became a game of psychological warfare.
You're caught. You're gonna go down.
Stream 48 Hours, 24/7.
CBS Sunday night.
Here we go.
The ultimate tradition continues.
From what I've seen, it's like chaos.
America's longest-running news magazine show is back.
For 60 minutes! 60 minutes.
With a new season.
Okay, let's go.
You're willing to talk about anything. I'm open to all of it. Ask me the hard-hitting questions. So how do you get over the nerves? Honestly, it's a whole bunch of mind
The most influential people.
Who's the best coach in college football?
Let me see a mirror so I can look at it.
Are you a billionaire yet?
None of your business, man. You trying to get me robbed?
Investigative journalism.
Am I getting a real look at what life is like in here today? Absolutely not.
Do you think people visiting know that these were looted?
When stories threaten our way of life, 60 Minutes demands answers.
This is the pager that Hezbollah was using.
Do you have hope that you may find him yet?
They were asking me to do something that was illegal.
They're fighting for faulty parts?
Yeah.
What is the most important takeaway for our audience?
How big of a problem is doping?
Where was the military?
Why are people suspicious?
That sounds like a problem.
How is this possible?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
What is going on?
I'm Scott Pelley.
I'm John Worth.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Bill Whitaker.
I'm Sharon Alfonsi.
I'm Cecilia Vega.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
This is 60 Minutes.
The CBS News original.
Showtime, baby.
It's time for 60 Minutes Sunday on CBS. Don't miss a minute. Now streaming. What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
I'm not asking that we ignore disability, rather that we do not ignore ability.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
Angel Downs was hard to miss. Her friends joked about her startling good looks. They called her Barbie. And her love of the beach kept her close to home in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
We were best friends. We did everything together.
Susan Bloodworth is Angel's younger sister.
If you saw one of us, you saw both of us. We were just very tight, very close.
Angel was 45. She sold real estate in Gulf Shores and lived in one of those quiet subdivisions where nothing much ever happens. By all accounts, she was happy except when it came to affairs of the heart, emotionally and physically. She was born with a rare, life-threatening heart condition.
May I ask about the heart condition? What was it?
Thelma Hinckley is Angel's mother.
Her heart was the size of a man 65 years old, and she was 18 months old when we discovered that.
Because of her heart trouble, Angel could never have children.
Her animals were indeed her babies.
Winston, her cat, now lives with Angel's sister Susan.
He's all we have left of Angel.
The emotional heartache in Angel Downs' life began on the beach. In 2004, she met Stephen Nodine on a weekend here centered around a storied local tradition called mullet toss.
My God, you don't know what mullet toss is?
I'm not from around here, sir. What is mullet toss?
Mullet toss was a event. We toss a dead mullet. One year it's from Alabama to Florida. Next year it's from Florida to Alabama. It's a beach party. It's a big fundraiser for the Marine Corps. One of my greatest assets was that I was a celebrity mullet tosser.
Ladies
we
and
don't have a
gentlemen,
picture with us.
Our celebrity tosser is Steve Nodine.
Good fish.
How'd you do? How far'd you throw?
85. We were just down there having a good time, and we met through some friends and hit it off right away.
Nodine had just been elected a county commissioner for Mobile County, Alabama. He was also married, although he says the marriage was on the rocks.
I lived in separate bedrooms with my wife for 14 years.
He began an affair with Angel Downs, who lived 50 miles away in Gulf Shores.
We spent the weekends on the beach, down there playing Frisbee or, just enjoying ourselves.
You didn't really keep this secret.
No.
I mean, you were seen in public with her all over the place.
Sure. In front of media.
Yeah, why did you do that?
Just because I was arrogant. Right next to that big hole up there.
That's where your office was?
Yeah.
He was also powerful, with powerful connections and the pictures to prove it. There are only 3 county commissioners in Mobile. They control the money. Nodine built roads and parks and bridges.
Once you meet Steve, he's such a dynamic personality. I mean, he just latches on to you, you know, and you don't forget him.
Jack Tillman is the retired sheriff for Mobile County. So if I'd come down here in, say, 2007, 2008, and I mentioned the name Steve Nodine, what would people say?
Oh, they thought he was a tremendous commissioner. But now, as far as his personal life, I don't know. I didn't run with him in that way. We were political friends.
When Nodine was running around with Angel Downs, her best friends, Emily Simmons and Kayla King Donald, saw them together frequently.
He was very nice, very polite, very loud, attention getter, wanted attention, life of the party. Everybody look at me.
Did you like him?
Yeah, I liked him. He was very nice.
He just had that hold on her that I can't explain.
We wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. We loved each other very much.
They had their ups and downs and even broke up a few times. Angel didn't like the role of the other woman, and she insisted repeatedly that Nodine, who was not just married but was the father of a young son, get a divorce.
Desperately, she wanted him to get a divorce. She was in love with him.
And Nodine promised he would.
About 6 months to a year into the relationship, she started questioning why it was taking so long for the divorce to be final, and then he, probably about a year into it, told her that he'd never filed.
How did she feel about that?
Not very good.
Do you understand why you didn't get divorced?
Sure. I wanted everything. I wanted to have Angel. I wanted to have my family life to come back over here in Mobile. I wanted to escape to the beach when I could, to live 2 different lives.
It all worked pretty well for Nodine for 6 years, until May 9th, 2010, Mother's Day.
It was a beautiful day.
Were you getting along?
Absolutely.
Angel looked very happy in photos taken just hours before she died.
We had a, normal day. I mean, no fighting, no arguing.
Until Nodine dropped Angel off at her house and left to go home to his wife.
When we dropped each other off, and again, the comment was made to me that, oh, you're going back to your wife. I assumed she was pissed off. I more than likely said, I love you, big. And then I left, got up the road, forgot my wallet.
Nodine turned around and went back to Angel Downs' place. We rented a similar truck and retraced his steps.
When I came back to get my wallet, I parked parallel to her house. My radio was going, my stereo, and my air conditioner was going.
Did you see her at all?
No. When I came in to get my wallet, I came in, I grabbed my wallet and left.
And that's when this quiet subdivision suddenly stopped being one of those places where nothing much ever happens.
Before the gunshots, had you seen the truck here?
Oh yeah, the truck's been here.
Angel's neighbor, Roger Whitehead, who's a firefighter, will probably never forget that evening.
I think there was a gunshot. Mr. Nodine was still here, and then he got in his truck and left.
I did not shoot her. I did not harm her. She took her own life. She's not here to accept that responsibility.
I can see clearly now.
Clearly.
CBS Mornings.
Weekdays on CBS.
Yeah!
Tony, coming?
No, I'm gonna stick around for an hour.
CBS Mornings Plus with Adriana Diaz and Tony DeCopel, right after CBS Mornings.
It's just like mornings.
Plus fun.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
Politics isn't a game. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives? Politics is about policy. So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like healthcare? I'm a voracious consumer of information, and I'm impatient. I don't like to be spun. Do you know if there are active terror cells in the United States right now? To be moderator of Face the Nation means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
While America's relaxing policies around social media and the internet, Germany is cracking down on lies and vitriol online.
How do people react when you take their phones from them?
They are shocked. Which approach makes more sense? Plus, Timothy Chalamet only on 60 Minutes.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go, with the 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes.
Like a John Grisham novel come to life.
Real lives.
He pointed a gun to me and said, "This is the day you die." And he shot me.
Real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
I'm an innocent man, and I hope the whole world can see it now.
Catch the latest episodes. Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
The all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This is CBS.
We continue to follow some breaking news out of Baldwin County. Police say a woman was found shot to death last night at a condominium.
Even before police had a solid theory about how Angel Downs ended up shot dead with her own gun in her driveway, DA Judy Newcomb was on the case.
The sheriff called me about 11:30 and told me what had happened.
Ma'am, if you would, just step back, okay?
Police in Gulf Shores, Alabama, wear body cameras, and they recorded the scene that night.
I think they were still examining the issues of whether it was a suicide or a homicide.
Why weren't they sure?
It's someone who's shot in the head with their own gun, which statistically would be a suicide, and what everybody's first impression when they see it is, oh, someone killed themselves.
It had one still in the chamber and 6 left in the magazine.
Her gun lay just inches away.
Did it ever cross your mind that this could have been a suicide?
Never. Not one time.
But Angel's closest friends and her family knew 4 years earlier, she had tried suicide.
Angel was going through a very difficult period. At that time, I think she realized Stephen was not leaving his wife.
In 2006, she took an overdose of pills.
How did you find out that she had taken all those pills?
Well, in 2006, she actually called me to tell me she was sorry for what she had done. She was so sorry for ever hurting me.
By continuing the relationship with Stephen Nodine.
Right.
Copy, come to the scene.
And that suicide attempt is just one fact that makes this case so hard to figure out. It obviously became a huge red flag immediately in May 2010. But her sister says Angel died with plans for the future. She was expected at a dinner party that night and had just made appointments for the following week. It looked nothing like suicide to Susan Bloodworth.
If she was going to do it, she would do it peacefully. Take pills, go to sleep. Not take a gun and shoot yourself. I hate to say, she was vain, but Angel was vain in the sense that she wouldn't want someone to see her that way, to find her that way.
She was found face up in a pool of blood in the middle of her driveway for all her neighbors to see.
I had a neighbor come to my door. I lived just around the corner, and she told me someone had been shot, and she knew I was a nurse.
Ann Myers came running. She knew right away what she was looking at.
I knelt beside her, and I did an assessment like I normally do. I looked at the wound and pretty much figured out it was a fatal shot.
Stephen Nodine was nowhere to be found. Remember, he says he drove off moments earlier after getting his wallet from inside Angel's condo. And he says when he pulled away from her driveway, he saw nothing and heard nothing.
My radio was going, my air conditioner was going. Somebody, one of the people said it sounded like a firecracker. I have horrible hearing to begin with. If I would have heard it, I would have known. If I would have seen her, I would have stopped and did everything I could to help her.
A few hours later, Nodine got a call from a friend saying the police wanted to talk to him. So he called his lawyer.
I said, what the hell's going on? And that's when he told me that there had been a shooting on Fort Morgan Road of a blonde-haired young lady. I immediately knew, obviously.
You knew?
I didn't know really, but I had a horrible sinking feeling in my gut.
Nodine went right to the police.
How long were you there?
Hours, 4 hours.
4 hours?
Offered to take any test.
How did they treat you? I mean, did you feel like you were a suspect?
No, absolutely not.
But he was wrong. Authorities didn't believe his story about what really happened earlier at the condo and also questioned what really happened afterwards. He told them after leaving Angel's, he first stopped at a convenience store where he's seen on surveillance tape. Then he went to this golf club, but it was closed. Next, he says he drove to one restaurant, changed clothes in his truck, but then decided that restaurant was too crowded and ended up, again on tape, at this restaurant nearby.
And that's where you ate?
Didn't eat, drank some coffee, drank some water, and watched the game.
The next morning, I received further calls from law enforcement.
What were some of the things that had concerned the police?
Well, I think the statement Mr. Nodine gave that night, I think the more they looked at the scene.
The truck's been in and out here, you know what I'm saying?
What they knew about the day, just different issues were concerning them.
It was like the gunshot and he was pulling off.
That it, in fact, could be a homicide.
And then things started moving more quickly than anyone had seen before. Just 2 weeks after Angel's death,
What have you been indicted for?
Stephen Nodine was indicted for murder and arrested. Timing raised some eyebrows because DA Judy Newcomb was up for re-election.
Fighting crime.
And election day was just days away.
Nobody gets indicted on a murder charge 2 weeks after the murder.
Dennis Knisley was Nodine's lawyer.
He put it together with being 8 days before the election. It appeared to be not so much going after Steve, but an opportunity to have some high-profile prosecution immediately before the election.
Did politics and your desire for re-election play any part in the way you handled this case?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all. Most people know that I'm probably the least political person in Baldwin County.
Did you ever think you'd find yourself in handcuffs, Steve?
Nodine was pretty well known to the police, and not just because he was a public figure. In 2009, before Angel's death, traces of marijuana were found in Nodine's county-issued pickup truck. He was forced to resign. Nodine admits he smoked pot to control hip pain and later became addicted to prescription painkillers.
He got addicted to Lortabs, and he was abusing them at the time of this arrest.
Nodine's problems were piling up. Shortly after he was indicted for murder, prosecutors here in Alabama discovered he had guns. None of them had anything to do with Angel's death, but he was still charged under a seldom used federal statute for being a drug user who owned guns.
I believe it was collusion between the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Baldwin County DA.
It was first things first. The gun case would have to wait for the murder case, and it took 7 months for that trial to begin.
It had been probably the most publicized murder case in South Alabama in 50 or 100 years.
You shoot your girlfriend in the head?
Prosecutor Judy Newcomb was in the spotlight and on the spot. Remember, she had no forensic evidence, nothing to physically tie Nodine to Angel Downs' death. But she told us she was ready for trial.
Other than some of the big cases people do on television and a whole lot of cases that we do, there's not a lot of forensic evidence.
With their animals.
She'll get some help from Angel's friends and family who say Nodine could be not just controlling, but frightening. Her sister says he stalked Angel online and in person.
He would do drive-bys. He would come by her home. He would send her text messages and say, I see someone's at your house, who is it? He would leave notes on her car.
Did you stalk Angel?
Absolutely not.
Even during these periods where you were fighting and all, when you would break up, did you do anything that could be interpreted as stalking?
Not in any sense. Imaginary or likewise. I mean, there's just no way.
But Emily Simmons and Kayla King Donald say Angel told them Nodine beat her and pushed her several times. Nodine denies it all, and there were no police reports filed. But the friends say in the weeks before her death, Angel was getting more afraid of Nodine.
She just broke down in tears in her kitchen. And I said, why are you crying? And she said, he's not the same person I've known all these years, Emily. He's changed. Just always know that if you ever find me dead, he killed me.
I'm sorry?
If you ever find me dead, he killed me.
And the DA knew she could count on some powerful and chilling testimony about the last few moments of Angel Downs' life.
Angel was obviously scared for her to pull her gun and call me and ask where to shoot someone.
Here comes a big one. What I've seen, it's like chaos.
This is the pager that Hezbollah was using.
How is this possible?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
Ask me the hard-hitting questions. I'm open to all of it.
60 minutes. Is this what you want?
60 minutes.
60 minutes!
It's time for the CBS News original, 60 Minutes, Sundays on CBS.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
A great adventure together.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
So cool.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
Something that's undeniable.
With mindfulness.
Innovative.
Magical.
It's like being a child.
And truly original reporting.
God, you do your research.
I tell a good story.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is clear.
Actually, two things. Pretty sure it's three.
Guys, whether it's news, money, health, or wellness, sports, movies, or even inspiration.
Clearly, CBS Mornings is the place to be. That's like 7 things.
Okay, clearly, I'm bad at math, always been.
Clearly.
Oh, okay. Clearly, CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7 on CBS.
What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
Anyone that doesn't agree women should be in the submarine force has to ask themselves why they would think about that.
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
Life is a little bit different now.
It's gonna take a while to get used to. And I say it to myself that I can't make this about me.
When we put people before politics.
What would happen if it was harder for Mexican residents to come over to work in Presidio?
I think we'd be in serious trouble.
Are you okay, ma'am?
What happens when you experience the story?
I'm shocked at how devastated this neighborhood is. How bad is it in your house?
Look at it.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
Here in Chicago.
Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
I think of Angel Downs every day. I think of her when I walk on the beach. I think of her almost every chance I get. And that is something that I'll miss for the rest of my life.
Prosecutors have spent 7 months preparing the case against Stephen Nodine for murdering Angel Downs, and the trial is about to begin.
He told me that he misses her every day and seemed to be crying.
Seemed to be. I can't believe it. I don't believe it. I believe it's an act. He's a politician. Turn the waterworks on when you want to, you know, flip the switch.
How do the handcuffs feel, Steve?
Nodine, the one-time county commissioner, was now a defendant in a murder case, and his lawyer, Dennis Nisley, says that meant a big adjustment.
It took a while for Steve to get out of the mentality and the mode of I'm a person in a position of authority into I'm a person charged with a crime, murder, and I'm fighting for my life.
I'm used to being in control, but certainly I'm at a loss here of my destiny.
His destiny would be determined by others, a judge and jury.
What made me nervous leading up to the trial is that there was no smoking gun.
In December 2010, prosecutor Judy Newcomb opened her murder case against him, and she says there's plenty of circumstantial evidence, starting with the position of Angel Downs' body.
The biggest thing that struck everyone as extremely strange is that Angel's hair, literally her hair looked like it had been laid out, as opposed to someone falling back.
And Ann Myers, Angel's neighbor, the retired nurse, thought so too.
Her hair was just a perfect, like somebody combed it out like a halo, which I've never seen before, you know, in a trauma case.
Newcomb's theory was if Angel had shot herself, she would have crumpled to the ground and her hair would never have ended up arranged like that. To the DA, it looked as if someone had staged the scene. She tried demonstrating by falling backwards onto the floor herself, right here in this courtroom. It would have been a dramatic moment for the prosecutor if only it had worked.
Her hair flayed out exactly like Miss Downs did, so showing it was not staged. It was just that's what happens when ladies with long hair fall back.
You must have been quite pleased with the way that turned out.
It was a positive time for the defense there.
A positive time?
Yeah.
It didn't come out as clearly as maybe you would have hoped.
Clearly is the good word.
Yeah.
But I do not think it was the failure that it was reported to be.
Newcomb could still try to get the jury to focus on what happened just before and just after Angel's death.
Well, that was that night. Angel called. It was Mother's Day.
Angel's sister Susan got a call that evening from Angel, but she was busy and ignored it. And then she got a second call.
All she said was, if someone's trying to break into your home, where do you shoot them? And I said, the chest, the largest part of the body. And I said, is it Stephen? She said, no, it's not Stephen.
But Susan feared the worst.
And I said, if you can't tell me who it is over the phone, send me a text in case something happens. I know what's going on.
Had she texted you?
When I looked at my phone, I actually had a text from Angel that said, Stephen Nodine is here. My heart sank.
6 to 7 minutes later, we have a 911 call and she's dead.
So what do you think happened that evening?
I don't know. I've played it in all scenarios, but at the end of the day, I don't think she was the one that pulled the trigger.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if she came out to threaten him with it and he turned it on her. There's only 2 people that know, and now only 1.
So, exactly where was Nodine when the shot was fired? This man might well know. Roger Whitehead is the neighbor who lived across the street and a few houses down from Angel. He heard the shot, and as he told the police that night, he rushed outside.
When the gunshot went off, I heard it, and I stepped outside, and he was pulling off that way.
It is a critical point in this case, because if Nodine's truck was still in front of Angel's house after the shot was fired, he would have been in a position to have killed her. And that's just where Whitehead told us he saw the truck, making a U-turn, as we demonstrated.
He would have been coming out of the turn at an angle that was nearly directly facing me like this, and then proceeded to leave.
But Nodine insists he left as he always did, by first driving all the way around this traffic island, as we did, then passing in front of Whitehead's condo on the way out. And he says he heard and saw nothing since his radio was playing, the air conditioner was on, and the windows were rolled up.
So there's really 2 ways to get out of there. You could have pulled around that end of the cul-de-sac, or you could have just made a U-turn.
I know exactly what I did. I pulled around the cul-de-sac.
That would mean that when the shot was fired, Nodine was more likely around here, hundreds of feet from Angel's driveway. But Nodine could be in trouble if the jury believes he was much closer to Angel's at the time of her death than he said. But he got a boost for his case that Angel shot herself from the autopsy report, which listed a potent mix of drugs in her system at the time she died.
When you have Ambien, and you have Xanax, and you have Adderall, and you have alcohol, and you've got health issues, that just pushed her over the edge, and she killed herself.
No, you don't call and ask her to shoot someone who's trying to break into your house, and then you're gonna go and take pills and go shoot yourself in the driveway of your home. I mean, Angel was calling because someone was trying to get into her home. That someone was Stephen Nodine.
In most cases, the medical examiner's opinion helps jurors decide the manner of death. But this case isn't anything like most cases.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
This was an entire building. It will take years to rebuild.
We're from CBS News, American television.
You get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This case.
It's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Like a John Grisham novel.
A gripping true crime original. 48 hours. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is clear.
CBS Mornings is the best way to start your day.
I can see clearly now.
My morning routine.
The first thing I do when I wake up is turn off the alarm.
I try to remember where I put my phone down. One alarm goes off at 4 a.m.
I need not 1, not 2, but...
And I'm out the door at 4:15.
3 snoozes to get out of bed fully coherent.
How much detail are you looking for?
I love a bath full of bubbles. The more bubbles, the better.
I'm very quick with the actual coffee, shave, shower, dressed out the door, but all around that is just pure chaos. For example, this morning, these are dirty socks.
You want my honest answer? Am I a morning person? I gotta be honest. I wish mornings started at like 10 a.m.
Can I say that? Clearly.
It's a bright, bright, bright way to start your day. CBS Mornings weekdays at 7 on CBS.
People with developmental disabilities were once sequestered by the hundreds of thousands in institutions.
Many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower.
Disability activists have since torn down barriers blocking them from living at home or in the community.
We conclude that Title II of the ADA requires states to provide community-based treatment for persons with mental disabilities.
But of the 16,000 people who remain in state-operated institutions, half are in 5 states, and Illinois is one of them.
I don't want to live in the institution. It makes me feel discriminated against.
Do you think there are people living in institutions in Illinois that don't need to be living there?
Yeah, because they're proving it as soon as they get out.
What happens when we follow the human side of the headline?
I was in tears.
Life is a little bit different now.
It's gonna take a while to get used to. And I said it to myself that I can't make this about me.
You get the all-new CBS Evening News.
In December 2010, when Stephen Nodine went on trial for murdering Angel Downs, prosecutor Judy Newcomb knew this was a tough case. For starters, the state's own medical examiner could not settle on the circumstances of Angel Downs' death. There's no doubt that the fatal shot came from Angel's own gun, but that's about all that's clear in this case. Alabama medical examiner Eugene Hart came to this courtroom to testify for the prosecution. He's the one who performed the autopsy on Angel.
When he came to court, he said from a forensic pathology standpoint, everything indicated it was suicide.
But he didn't call it suicide.
Didn't.
He called it what?
Inconclusive.
Inconclusive, which could mean suicide, could mean homicide.
Knisley says the prosecutor tried to influence Dr. Hart into not calling Angel's death a suicide.
Pressure would not be the word. May have influenced him.
Okay, influenced him?
Well, pressure, it has a negative connotation of some maybe impropriety.
But Newcomb says she just asked Dr. Hart to review the evidence.
I never tried to influence his decision about a suicide. What we did try to say is we'd like you to really examine this case to see if you can reach a decision.
Hart would not call it murder, so Newcomb called in another medical examiner from another state, Georgia. He did not examine Angel's body, but 3 months after her death, he did review crime scene photos and other evidence. And when he rendered his opinion, it matched Newcomb's.
His opinion was that it was a homicide.
Homicide. So the jury heard 2 experts, both working for the prosecution, with 2 different opinions about how Angel Downs died. One said it was homicide, the other said he couldn't be sure, but it looked like suicide. The jurors also had to sort through different theories about how the gun was held to Angel's head.
Angel would have had to be kind of cocked back like this, the way the angle of the gun was, to commit suicide. And that's not natural, someone who's going to commit suicide.
This was pressed so hard against her head, there was a muzzle imprint.
Defense attorney Dennis Knisley thinks the evidence about the gun helps his client.
So the gun was against her head like this?
Right hand, gun, exactly as you would expect the gun to be, up and slightly back if it was a self-inflicted wound. The gun was laying down beside her body. There was absolutely no signs of struggle on her or him. There was no blood on his truck. There was no blood in his truck. There was no blood on him. There was no blood on his hands. There was no blood on his clothing whatsoever.
But no tests were required or done at that time for gunshot residue on either Nodine or Angel. And no fingerprints were found on Angel's gun.
You had gloves on before you touched that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. They had taken the gun and they had tested the gun without testing it for fingerprints until it came back. The gun had already been handled by forensics and everything else and wiped down. That's why they didn't have any fingerprints.
All of that, plus Angel's previous suicide attempt, proves, says Nisley, that she shot herself.
You're going to see blood down.
Still, DA Judy Newcomb thinks, given the strange stories Nodine told police and the allegations that he beat and stalked Angel, she's proved her case.
I think the totality of all the circumstances, I mean, you know, unless you have a video of a crime, and, you know, in today's world, sometimes people think we should have a video of every crime. We have to apply our common sense and logic, and, you know, I support the case that we built against him.
Well, where do you live out here?
Angel's neighbor, Roger Whitehead, the man who comes closest to being an eyewitness, is not so sure.
If you were a juror, would you convict Stephen Nodine of murder? No, sir. Because? We were supposed to be convicted beyond a reasonable doubt, but I have no idea what transpired here that night.
That was up to the jurors to decide. They wrestled with the evidence for 6 hours and came back deadlocked on the murder charge. The judge had no choice. He had to declare a mistrial.
We wanted to get a verdict, and we're hoping to put this behind us now.
I was disappointed that they weren't given a longer time to deliberate.
We wanted him to be found guilty of murder. We believe 100% it was murder, that he murdered her.
Stephen Nodine was a free man, but only for 4 months. He agreed to plead guilty to that old federal gun charge, possessing a gun while using drugs.
God will show the way.
And that put him away for a year in prison, while Alabama prosecutors decided whether to retry him for murder. That was now up to Hallie Dixon, the newly elected district attorney who had defeated Judy Newcomb. And it was one tough call for her.
The public had been completely convinced that this was a murder. I had law enforcement and a chief of police and investigators telling me that it wasn't a homicide, and that's tough.
Dixon convened a new grand jury to examine the case. After hearing the evidence, there was a decision. Stephen Nodine would not be charged with murder again.
Our grand jury returned an indictment for criminally negligent homicide.
In Alabama, that's not a felony. It's a misdemeanor that says Nodine was partially responsible for Angel Downs' death.
That but for him that night, that day, she would still be alive. And that was the question. It's not a matter of proving suicide. It's a matter of proving whether or not there was a homicide. And when I have no evidence, physical evidence, that is consistent with somebody else being the trigger person, then as a prosecutor, I don't bring a case on that.
There we are, right there. There's the whole family.
Angel's family was furious that Dixon was not refiling a murder charge against Nodine.
I think Hallie Dixon sabotaged the case. That's exactly what I think happened.
They would not rest.
And we were ready to go through another trial, no matter how hard, no matter how difficult it is. Angel's dead. Angel can't speak. You know, we're the only people who can push for her.
So they went over Dixon's head. They appealed to the Alabama Attorney General and demanded a special prosecutor. They won. A special prosecutor was named, took the case away from Dixon, and decided to retry Stephen Nodine for murder.
And how did you feel then?
We were elated. We're like, thank God, you know, hopefully, you know, finally, maybe we can get justice and, you know, get somebody who's going to take this case and move forward with it.
Ready? Yeah. You ready? And 1, 2, 3.
I can see clearly now that the rain is gone.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is clear.
CBS Mornings is the best way to start your day. Clearly.
Look at this outfit, man. Give me some love, baby.
We got a toy. Look at this. Oh, no!
Clearly fun.
Hi, Otis. Hi. Smart. We've got tips to save on clothes, tech, and more.
Clearly uplifting. I'm getting goosebumps right now.
Oh, my heart is soaring.
I got one.
Ooh, okay. What do you got? I can't wait. Ooh.
The light bulb went off right here. I saw it go.
Okay, watch this. CBS Mornings is clearly brighter.
Ooh.
It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
It's a bright way to start your day.
Sunshiny day.
Clearly, CBS Mornings weekdays at 7 on CBS.
This is CBS.
What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
I'm not asking that we ignore disability, rather that we do not ignore ability.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight. The CBS News original 60 Minutes opens its archives.
Pretty loose for a Friday night.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not my first show.
With moments you haven't heard before.
It's almost more fun that way when you have something to prove.
Listen to 60 Minutes, a second look, wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go, with 48 Hours Podcasts. Real crimes, real lives, real justice. Listen to 48 Hours Podcasts wherever you get your podcasts.
Just hope that there's peace for everyone. We can move on with our lives.
Once again, Stephen Nodine finds himself in a familiar place, a courthouse. And this time, he isn't just asking for help from his lawyer.
We pray for real fairness and compassion, that Steve, oh Lord, now will be able to put this behind him in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
But Susan Bloodworth thinks his attention should be directed elsewhere.
I say that Stephen Nodine is on track for a one-way ticket to hell. And that's honestly where I'd like to see him.
But in this case, neither side's prayers were answered. Special Prosecutor David Whetstone was set to try Nodine again for murder, but they were all in court because there was a change in plans. There was a plea deal and a remarkable admission from the special prosecutor.
Do we have proof beyond a reasonable doubt? No. That was the basis of the plea.
A sudden turn today in the Steve Nodine murder case.
After more than 2 years of trying to convict Stephen Nodine of killing Angel Downs, the state of Alabama dropped the murder charge and a stalking charge. In return, Nodine pled guilty to a much less serious charge, perjury for lying on a legal form. He also agreed to plead no contest to a charge he harassed Angel Downs with emails and text messages.
So you got what a lot of people might consider a pretty good deal. Do you think it's a good deal?
No.
Why?
Because I was innocent of all the charges.
He was ordered to spend 2 years in jail, and even then he was just barely incarcerated. He spent nights and weekends in the county jail. He spent his days working for his lawyer. It was a far cry from his one-time high-flying, high-powered life.
What do you do here? What's your job?
Manage the office.
It's a different life than you were used to, but do you like it?
No.
What would you rather be doing?
I'd rather be back in politics and working and help shape some of the future of South Alabama like I was before.
But that will have to wait. Nodine's only real responsibility now is to be sure he makes it across the street to the jail every evening and on time. Angel's family had been hoping for a lot more.
He got off very lightly.
treatment.
He got special treatment.
It goes back to politics. Stephen's a politician. You know, he's very persuasive.
What sentence should he have gotten?
There's no sentence good enough for him. There is nothing that will ever bring Angel back. She's gone. I think he should have been sentenced for murder. We have to accept what happened and move on. There's Angel's graduation picture.
Angel's family will move on, but they will carry with them a grudge against DA Hallie Dixon, who declined to prosecute Nodine for murder.
She's got a lot of similarities with Stephen Nodine. You know, the two would make a great couple.
No family wants to believe that their loved one killed themselves. That family has the additional pressure of they're very strong in their faith, and I think there are religious reasons for some folks that suicide is unacceptable.
Show us the proof, show us the documentation. We have a hard time accepting what Hallie Dixon did to this case.
There's absolutely no way that Mr. Nodine could have shot, staged a crime scene, and still been blood-free and speeding off within the seconds that were talked about.
Dixon says a lot of people would get the answers they still seek had she been allowed to prosecute Nodine, even for the misdemeanor, criminally negligent homicide.
The way it went down, I think it has left people going, well, what happened? What happened? What happened? And it was a little frustrating for me, because if it had gone to trial, the truth would be there.
Almost everyone is frustrated with the way this case turned out, but perhaps no one is more dissatisfied than Angel Downs' family. They are still hoping for answers from Stephen Nodine.
It's hard the not knowing unless he tells what really happened that night. What really happened that night.
Stephen Nodine ended up back behind bars full-time when he violated the terms of his work release program, mainly by missing his curfew. In October 2014, having served his 2 years, Nodine was released from jail. His wife had divorced him, but he was reunited with his son.
I'm going to spend time with my son. I have to find a job. I'm hoping people realize that people make mistakes in their lives and have forgiveness, as I forgive those who wrongfully prosecuted me.
Nodine was arrested just before Christmas for leaving.
Didn't take long before Nodine ended up back in court again. This time, he violated the terms of his probation. He left the state without permission and failed a drug test.
Nodine pled guilty, his probation was revoked, and he was sentenced to 60 days behind bars.
And that was probably the end of Stephen Nodine's hope for a return to local politics. He's back out of jail, but unable to find a job in Mobile. So Nodine decided to move to Florida.
CBS Mornings Plus, clearly more news, more smart conversation.
More money-saving tips, more recipes.
More uplifting ways to get you on your way.
Plus, more sports, more weather.
Clearly, more CBS Mornings.
Plus,
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
Reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
Experience thought-provoking.
Something that's undeniable.
Ta-da!
And truly original reporting.
I'm in on this.
There's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
Write a prescription for the healing of America.
You get the stories of America every weeknight. You get the all-new CBS Evening News.
Giving you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. CBS Sports HQ.
I'm John Dickerson.
I'm Maurice Dubois.
Part of the all-new CBS Evening News.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go, with 48 Hours podcasts. Real crimes, real lives, real justice. Listen to 48 Hours podcasts wherever you get your podcasts.
Our mother was feisty, incredibly vibrant.
She was spunky. She was fun. She was that fun mom.
Hey, Jeanette. Say hi.
I was 10.
Hi, Tippy.
I was 14.
Our grandparents picked us up to visit for the day. And when we returned home from the visit, we walk inside and she's not there.
We weren't even fully in the house when Tippy, she grabs my hand and she says something's not right. That week that she was missing, I don't remember much. I don't have any recollection of anything up until the day we were told that she was found.
I got a nice bite on my fishing pole. I thought I had a fish, but it kept being so heavy that I couldn't bring it in. And when it came to the surface, all I saw was a long black tail. The bag turned over and I saw two big feet sticking me in the face, and it scared the bejesus out of me.
This body was in a large nylon duffel bag about 5 feet tall. It was Pontip Ott, and on top of that was large chunks of concrete. When you go to this much trouble to dispose of a body, this is somebody known to the victim.
If you watch enough crime shows, you know the person police usually zero in on when a wife turns up dead is the husband. And this case was no different. Their prime suspect was the victim's husband and stepfather to her two daughters, Dennis Ott.
He always brought us gifts.
She's got me finally.
He always liked to joke and he always seemed to be happy and smiled all the time. You didn't see the other side till later. There was one fight, but I remember being behind a door. I was so scared. I remember Mom screaming for Tippy, "Tippy, help me." And I was frozen in fear. I felt like such a coward hiding behind a door, but I couldn't move.
Did you think at that time that Dennis could hurt your mom?
Yes. Yes.
We confronted him, and he basically said, you know, I've got nothing to say to you guys. We took him into custody.
I remember being outside of the courtroom for the trial, and I remember hearing the words, "He was found guilty," and just sobbing. And there was no stopping it.
And here's where tonight's 48 Hours is a little different. We're going to show you what happens long after the verdict and why two sisters are still fighting for justice nearly 25 years after their mother's murder.
You have a prepaid call from...
Good morning, Dennis Ott.
An inmate at the California State Prison.
Why do you think you deserve parole?
I meet all of the criteria for parole.
I've been saying for 20 years that I'm not guilty of this crime. And I've done everything I can in prison to try to justify my release. I don't believe I'll be a danger to society.
Our mother doesn't get a second chance. Why should he?
I'm not that child hiding behind a door anymore. And I want him to know that I will do everything in my power to keep him incarcerated. Everything.
I think I asked direct questions. I don't know that they're tough questions per se.
When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives?
So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like healthcare. That's the role of Face the Nation, to focus on the issues at hand. That means a civil conversation with perspective.
Sunday morning, Wicked Oscar nominee Cynthia Erivo. A few words from Flo, plus 100 years of The New Yorker. Listen for the trumpet.
It was almost like being face to face with the devil.
Women riding bicycles dismembered.
She just vanished.
48 hours reports. I fought and fought.
911, what is your emergency?
She disappeared off the face of the earth.
Ever think in your wildest dreams someone might want to kill you?
This almost became a game of psychological warfare.
You're caught. You're gonna go down.
Stream 48 hours, 24/7. CBS Sunday night.
Here we go.
The ultimate tradition continues.
From what I've seen, it's like chaos.
America's longest-running news magazine show is back.
For 60 minutes!
60 minutes.
With a new season.
Hey, let's go.
You're willing to talk about anything. I'm open to all of it. Ask me the hard-hitting questions.
So how do you get over the nerves?
Honestly, it's a whole bunch of mind
The most influential people.
Who's the best coach in college football? Let me see a mirror so I can look at it.
Are you a billionaire yet?
None of your business, man. You trying to get me robbed?
Investigative journalism.
Am I getting a real look at what life is like in here today? Absolutely not.
Do you think people visiting know that these were looted?
When stories threaten our way of life, 60 Minutes demands answers.
This is the pager that Hezbollah was using.
Do you have hope that you may find him yet?
They were asking me to do something that was illegal.
They're fighting for faulty parts?
Yeah. What is the most important takeaway for our audience?
How big of a problem is doping?
Where was the military?
Why are people suspicious?
That sounds like a problem.
How is this possible?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
What is going on?
I'm Scott Pelley.
I'm John Worth.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Bill Whitaker.
I'm Sharon Alfonsi. I'm Cecilia Vega.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
This is 60 Minutes.
The CBS News original.
Showtime, baby.
It's time for 60 Minutes Sunday on CBS. Don't miss a minute. Now streaming. What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
I'm not asking that we ignore disability, rather that we do not ignore ability.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
If you want to kill somebody and dispose of the body, you drive up to Sutter County and you dump them, because we're the first rural open area that they come to out of Sacramento County.
Sutter County Sheriff Paul Parker was a young detective in May of 1992 when a fisherman reeled in that weighted duffel bag from the Sacramento River.
You know, if it wouldn't have been for this fisherman, this would have been an unknown case.
33-year-old Pontip Ott had been missing for more than a week.
And so probably less than 24 hours, I was on surveillance of her house. And the reason that we did that so quickly is that this was, to us, obviously a homicide.
Pontip, known as Pon, was a hard-working immigrant from Thailand with a job at a commercial laundry. She lived with her 2 daughters, Jeanette and Tippy, in a modest home in Sacramento.
She's that fun mom. She loved music, sing along, our little own versions of karaoke, frisbee outside, playing with our dogs. She was a strong Asian woman who didn't take nothing from nobody.
Jeanette, hi.
Younger sister Jeanette remembers their mother's laughter.
Very loud. Very prideful, never wanted to ask for help, so she did what needed to be done in order to take care of Tippy and I.
Merry Christmas.
The light's blinking up here. It's recording right now.
Also at home, their mom's new husband, 41-year-old Dennis Ott. He was a Coast Guard chief petty officer and spent months away at sea.
See? Good dog, huh?
He spoke with us by phone from the Solano prison in California.
She was a beautiful woman, and she was a gentle soul. I still miss her daily.
But you had nothing to do with her disappearance and death.
I had nothing to do with her disappearance and death.
Did you see Dennis as a father figure?
I think I was more welcoming. I think he was charming and a nice guy. I wasn't as hesitant as Tippy was. We wanted a complete family, or at least I did.
Jeanette and Tippy's grandfather, retired military man Larry Lewis, married Pon's mother. He first met Dennis Ott on Coast Guard Island in Alameda, California.
I think one of the biggest mistakes I've made is, well, anytime you get some free time, just stop by the house, you know? And then it just happened that when he came over, that Pon and the girls were at our house. And that's where he met Pon.
Do you feel guilty?
Yeah. I've never said that before.
How could you have even imagined?
You don't imagine. Only a sick person could imagine.
Hey, baby. What you got cooking?
Dennis Ott says the last time he saw his wife was Sunday morning, May 17th, 1992.
And I said, do you want to go out and do something? She said, no, I have plans. And she picked up her little black purse and walked out the house, and that was the last I saw of her.
Jeanette and Tippy say Dennis told their grandparents a very different story. When you pulled up, what happened?
Dennis was leaving. He was in his car. My grandparents asked if our mom was home, and he had said yes, that she was inside. And so our grandparents said goodbye to us, and we got out of the car, went inside the house, and she wasn't in there.
And when it came time to file a missing persons report with police, it was their grandpa Larry who filed it, not Pon's husband, Dennis Ott.
He got really upset that I done it. Now, why would he get upset? Why didn't he file a missing person case?
Dennis Ott told us he tried to file a missing persons report, but he claims he was told to call the hospitals first. Still, he admits his marriage to Pon was troubled.
My girl, my shadow. Hi. Hi, everybody.
Something both her daughters saw early on.
I started really noticing it before she became missing. There was a lot of fights leading up to that day.
And how old were you?
9 or 10, probably. And I can hear her screaming right now. It got that bad towards the end.
Pontip and I had 2 altercations during our marriage. One was verbal, and the other one was physical, where I had just returned home from work. I followed her into our room, and I said, what's going on? And she scratched me on the face, and I grabbed her by the hands. I threw her back in our waterbed, and I held her by the arms there so she would stop scratching me.
According to Larry Lewis, Ott could be just as angry when he was away from the family at sea.
There was letters that he had written while he was at sea that you and Tippy can take a long walk off a short pier.
He had written that to Pon.
He had written that, yes.
Life with Ott was tense, and Pon wanted protection.
She filed a restraining order saying she was afraid of him. That was about 2 days before she went missing.
That's a huge red flag.
Yeah, there was red flags popping up all over the place on this.
Even though the cops were on the case, Pon's family was desperate for answers. Grandpa Larry set out on patrol to try to find out what happened to her.
Every morning, I would drive to their house, and I would just circle the block, go through the alley, just to see if anything, just anything, any little thing, but I never did.
But he'll never forget what he observed when he came face to face with Dennis Ott shortly after Pon had vanished.
I saw some marks on his neck. He had said he tried to hang himself, but that was rope burn.
You think he was hauling the body?
Yeah, into the river.
Detectives found it strange Ott had called the sheriff's department several times about a report in the local newspaper.
And he immediately called us and said, I read that you guys recovered a body in the river, weighted down with cement. And, you know, my wife is missing, and I want to know if you've identified this body yet.
Well, doesn't that sound like a concerned husband?
Well, it does sound like a concerned husband, except for I don't know why he would just automatically assume that because we found a body weighted down with cement, he would think that was his wife.
Parker had a hunch Dennis Ott knew more about what had happened to his wife. A lot more.
I can see clearly now.
Clearly, CBS Mornings.
Weekdays on CBS.
Yeah!
Tony, coming? No, I'm gonna stick around for an hour.
CBS Mornings Plus with Adriana Diaz and Tony DeCopel, right after CBS Mornings.
It's just like mornings.
Plus fun.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
Politics isn't a game. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives? Politics is about policy. So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like healthcare? I'm a voracious consumer of information, and I'm impatient. I don't like to be spun. Do you know if there are active terror cells in the United States right now? To be moderator of Face the Nation means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
While America's relaxing policies around social media and the internet, Germany is cracking down on lies and vitriol online.
How do people react when you take their phones from them?
They are shocked.
Which approach makes more sense? Plus, Timothy Chalamet only on 60 Minutes.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go with the 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes.
Like a John Grisham novel come to life.
Real lives.
He pointed a gun to me and said, "This is the day you die." And he shot me.
Real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
I'm an innocent man, and I hope the whole world can see it now.
Catch the latest episodes. Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
The all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This is CBS.
When their mother, Pon Ott, disappeared, Tippy and Jeanette moved in with their grandparents.
I remember walking in the house and it was dark and everyone was crying.
For nearly 2 weeks, the sisters had been holding on to hope she would be found alive.
Grandpa took me to the backyard and he just looked at me and he said, "She's gone. Your mom's not coming home."
Do you remember Jeanette's reaction?
Crying. 10-year-old girl. This monster, he'd done so much damage.
When her body was found, it was instant. We knew that he did it. There's no doubt about it.
You had no doubt?
No doubt.
Why?
Never considered anybody else. Don't know how to explain it. It was just something you knew.
After all, it was no secret Dennis Ott's marriage to their mom had hit rock bottom.
We all knew that they weren't happy. Mom wanted a divorce. Mom wanted a better life for her and for us.
Why did she want a divorce?
She never said. I don't know, because Pontiff kept secrets.
It seems they both may have kept secrets. Pon suspected her husband was cheating, and she apparently had a boyfriend.
I found these cards that had been written to her the summer before. I said, "Who is this guy?" I got in her face. I'm kind of ashamed of this, but I was trying to get her to talk, and I called her a couple of names that I'm not going to bother repeating.
How do you think that looks?
Oh, I think it's very condemning. It makes it look like I was a very hostile individual.
Authorities questioned Pon's boyfriend after she went missing and quickly ruled him out as a suspect. They were, however, very anxious to talk to her husband, and as it turns out, he too had an important question for detectives.
He goes, "Does this have to do with Pontiff?" The detective that was talking to him said yes, and we need to talk to you today. We need to talk to you right now. And he says, "Okay, I'll be there in a few minutes."
Ott never showed up, according to Parker, and there was something else the detective was curious about. A few days earlier, he'd noticed Ott had been spending a lot of time in the backyard. He wanted a closer look and got a search warrant.
There looked like there was some new fence posts that were erected in the backyard.
The concrete anchors needed to hold up the fence posts were unlike anything Detective Parker had ever seen. They were shaped like an H. And Parker remembered that when Pon's body was recovered from the river, it had been weighted down with rocks and chunks of cement in that very distinctive shape.
I found 2 or 3 of these cement H-shaped anchors lying around in the backyard that were pulled out when he was repairing the fence that were an exact match for the anchor that was in the bag. That's when I really started lasering down on this guy.
Something else puzzled Parker. That white nylon bag that held Pon's body had a patch cut out of it.
And lo and behold, after a long search with much assistance from Coast Guard intelligence, we actually found a person that had an identical bag that was available to the Coast Guard. And where they stamped their lot numbers and ID numbers on the bags was the exact spot where this 4-inch by 5-inch was cut out. And these were only available to people in the Coast Guard.
There's a picture of you holding up one of these bags.
Right, that's it. That's the duplicate that we got from the Coast Guard.
At the same time, there was nothing to tie Dennis Ott directly to that bag.
Right, other than, he's in the Coast Guard, he had access to them.
To Parker, the concrete and the bag seemed like significant physical evidence, but they were hardly a smoking gun. And while the detective believed he had the right man, the DA's office wasn't convinced there was enough evidence to arrest Dennis Ott for murder.
They wanted a little bit stronger case. They just thought it was a little bit thin.
And the investigation into Pon Ott's murder slowed to a crawl.
I remember questioning why he still is going to work. Why is he still out and about? Why is he still free? Why does Dennis get to live a normal life and our mother's gone? He felt like no one was going to be held accountable.
So about 18 months after your mom was murdered, you decided to do something, Tippy.
I wrote a letter. My grandfather suggested I write letters to the Coast Guard intelligence, to the DA, My name is Tippy Marine, and I am writing you because...
Tippy read us a portion of the letter she wrote when she was just 16.
Do you honestly think that waiting any longer, you will find more evidence to prove this man, Dennis Ott, guilty? Do you have any idea how hard it is for me and my 11-year-old sister to live each day and know that our mother's life was taken and the man who did it is not in prison?
When Parker read Tippy's letter, he knew he couldn't let this case go cold.
These things rip your heart out, you know? I mean, it just kind of makes you want to dig in your heels. And we just kind of got it in our head, you know what, we're not going to let this punk get away with this. We got it in front of the grand jury, and the grand jury agreed with us. I remember me and another detective went down to Coast Guard Island to pick him up.
What was that like?
He said something along the effect of, well, you can indict a ham sandwich. And we said, yeah, well, okay, maybe. And, oh, by the way, here's yours. And we took him into custody, and that was that.
In November 1994, Dennis Ott was arrested and charged with his wife Pon's murder, more than 2 years after her body was recovered from the Sacramento River.
What were the challenges of this case?
There was no DNA.
Sutter County District Attorney Investigator Vicki Van Atta.
Fingerprints?
No fingerprints.
Blood evidence?
No blood evidence.
Murder weapon?
No weapon.
It's hard to prove a murder case without a lot of physical evidence. And when Dennis Ott's defense attorney got a hold of this case, prosecutors were in for a big surprise.
Somebody made a mistake in the forensics.
Here comes a big one.
What I've seen, it's like chaos.
This is the pager that Hezbollah was using.
How was this possible?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
Ask me the hard-hitting questions. I'm open to all of it.
60 minutes. Is this what you want?
60 minutes.
60 minutes!
It's time for the CBS News original, 60 Minutes, Sundays on CBS.
When you need your sports news all the time,
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights
What a finish at the final round of play.
and in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
A great adventure together.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
So cool.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
something that's undeniable,
with mindfulness, innovative,
Magical.
It's like being a child.
and truly original reporting.
God, you do your research.
I tell a good story.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is clear.
Actually, two things. Pretty sure it's three.
Guys, whether it's news, money, health, or wellness, sports, movies, or even inspiration.
Clearly, CBS Mornings is the place to be. That's like 7 things.
Okay, clearly, I'm bad at math, always been.
Clearly.
Okay. Clearly, CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7 on CBS.
What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
Anyone that doesn't agree women should be in the submarine force has to ask themselves why they would think about that.
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
Life is a little bit different now.
It's gonna take a while to get used to. And I say it to myself that I can't make this about me.
When we put people before politics.
What would happen if it was harder for Mexican residents to come over to work in Presidio?
I think we'd be in serious trouble.
Are you okay, ma'am?
What happens when you experience the story?
I'm shocked at how devastated this neighborhood is.
How bad is it in your house?
Look at it.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
Here in Chicago.
Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
As prosecutors prepared for Dennis Ott's murder trial, Detective Parker was learning more about the relationship between the Coast Guard seaman and his wife.
Say something.
I am saying something.
This guy's a very controlling person.
You can't get any more.
If your spouse comes to you and says, I don't want you going anywhere, and oh, by the way, here, give me your driver's license, I'm tearing it up, and then takes your car and hides it, if they feel that you're slipping out of their control, what do? I guess some people kill them.
With no DNA, no fingerprints, no murder weapon, cops were certain Ott killed his wife, but they weren't sure how he did it.
We were pretty confident that she didn't crawl in that bag by herself and somehow hop it into the river.
Back in 1995, I was a reporter for the Appeal Democrat. You don't often see a military man on trial for a strange murder like this.
Frank Hartzell had covered a lot of murder cases, but this one was different. The autopsy report on Pawn Ott's body revealed elevated levels of carbon monoxide.
Initially, they believed that she was killed by automobile asphyxiation, and I was very intrigued by that.
Then, a week before the trial, Ott's defense attorney delivered prosecutors a bombshell. Sutter County District Attorney investigator Vicki Van Atta.
Our pathologist used some old methods, and they were able to get another pathologist that said his methods weren't correct. So that got thrown out.
Then what did they say the cause of death was?
Well, we knew she was dead, and it looked like possible strangulation.
But it was never determined for sure.
Never determined for sure.
How often does that happen? I mean, how often does it happen that the theory of the crime is thrown out just before the trial and the prosecution continues just as if nothing had happened? And now we had no explanation for the cause of death. That was definitive.
Sometimes you just don't have a cause of death. You know, if you get a body in the water after about a week, you're going to start losing evidence of that.
It's clear what evidence you didn't have. What evidence did you have?
Well, we had evidence they got into a fight. He went to her work. He threatened to kill her. He called her all kinds of real bad names.
Witnesses who heard him say, "I'll kill you," those words?
Yes. And after that, she filed for a divorce, and he got served divorce papers on the 15th of May.
The last time Pawn was seen alive was 2 days later, Sunday, May 17th, 1992.
I can't imagine my son murdering anybody. I just don't see it.
Grandma, who's this from?
Dennis Ott's mother, Marin Atkinson, remembers how Pawn's daughters, Tippy and Jeanette, called her grandma. In August 1995, she had a front row seat at her son's murder trial.
Watching Dennis handcuffed and shackled and everything, I just wanted to scream in agony. It was horrible.
Prosecutors presented a pile of evidence against Ott, including a wooden fence post from his home and that H-shaped concrete anchor discovered inside the duffel bag. Remember, authorities believed the concrete used to weigh down Pawn's body came from Ott's backyard.
There was concrete found in the bag, but it was not an absolute match. So it was physical evidence, but not like DNA.
Sometimes you make cases on circumstantial evidence, and it's just as good as direct evidence or anything else, especially if you have enough of it.
One of the things that people said during your trial is, hey, you're from the Coast Guard, the woman's body was found in the water. Doesn't that seem like something that somebody who's very familiar with the water, has spent his life on the water, would be capable of doing?
I've been to the Bering Sea and across the Pacific Ocean and down south the equator. To equate the ocean with the Sacramento River is a very, very deep stretch of imagination.
Reporter Frank Hartzell also paid close attention to Ott's demeanor in the courtroom.
I remember him sitting there very stoically, very seeming unemotional, unreactive. So you think, now why isn't this guy reacting? And I wondered why we didn't hear more about him and more about his life. Maybe he just didn't make a good witness. Not everybody is a wonderful witness, but does that make him a killer?
You both testified. What do you remember about testifying?
I remember taking the stand and just crying immediately from state your name and spell your name. It's a lot to take in for being so young, and to talk about your life and what you remember and little details of putting the investigation together, bits and pieces to help the detectives. It's very intimidating to sit and stare at the man that did this to your mom. I don't recall what exactly was said during my testimony.
You don't remember?
I remember going in the courtroom, sitting down, looking at a room full of people. I remember him sitting there, but as far as what I said during trial, I have no recollection of it.
Jeanette may not remember, but what she told the jury was something she had never revealed to anyone in the 3 years since her mother's murder. On the witness stand, the teary 13-year-old testified she saw Dennis Ott put his hands on her mother's neck during one heated argument. How important do you think Jeanette's testimony was in your trial?
I think it was extremely important. The emotional impact of a young girl testifying about a man strangling her mother who's now dead, you gotta be kidding. When she broke down in tears and cried, the emotional impact of that alone.
Did you ever put your hands on your wife's neck?
No, not like that, no, never.
Do you think that Jeanette was lying?
No, I don't think it was a lie as such. I think what it was an implanted memory. Memory, especially for a youngster, can be very malleable.
Ott is convinced Jeanette's testimony sealed his fate. The jury took just 3.5 hours to reach a unanimous guilty verdict. Did you kill your wife?
No, I did not.
It felt good to know that 12 other people believed us. They knew what we knew, that he did it, and we didn't need a confession from him to prove that.
Now, more than 20 years after their mother's murder, Tippy and Jeanette would once again come face to face with their stepfather, the convicted killer Dennis Ott, who desperately wants a second chance at freedom.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
This was an entire building. It will take years to rebuild.
We're from CBS News, American television.
You get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This case,
it's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Like a John Grisham novel.
A gripping true crime original. 48 hours. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is clear.
CBS Mornings is the best way to start your day.
I can see clearly now.
My morning routine.
The first thing I do when I wake up is turn off the alarm.
I try to remember where I put my phone down.
One alarm goes off at 4 a.m.
I need not 1, not 2, but...
And I'm out the door at 4:15.
3 snoozes to get out of bed fully coherent.
How much detail are you looking for?
I love a bath full of bubbles. The more bubbles, the better.
I'm very quick with the actual coffee, shave, shower, dressed out the door, but all around that is just pure chaos. For example, this morning, these are dirty socks.
You want my honest answer? Am I a morning person? I gotta be honest. I wish mornings started at like 10 a.m. Can I say that? Clearly.
It's a bright, bright, bright way to start your day. CBS Mornings weekdays at 7 on CBS.
People with developmental disabilities were once sequestered by the hundreds of thousands in institutions.
Many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower.
Disability activists have since torn down barriers blocking them from living at home or in the community.
We conclude that Title II of the ADA requires states to provide community-based treatment for persons with mental disabilities.
But of the 16,000 people who remain in state-operated institutions, half are in 5 states, and Illinois is one of them.
I don't want to live in the institution. It makes me feel discriminated against.
Do you think there are people living in institutions in Illinois that don't need to be living there?
Yeah, because they're proving it as soon as they get out.
What happens when we follow the human side of the headline?
I was in tears.
Life is a little bit different now.
It's going to take a while to get used to. And I said it to myself that I can't make this about me.
You get the all-new CBS Evening News.
On a Friday morning, September 25th, 2015, more than 20 years after their mother's murder, Tippy and Jeanette make the 70-mile drive to the place Dennis Ott now calls home, California State Prison Solano in Vacaville, California.
You know you're going to see him in just a couple of hours.
It's a day they've been dreading, the parole hearing for their mother's convicted killer and their stepfather, Dennis Ott.
An article about her mother in the hearing today. It's going to be an interesting day.
Is it like a trial waiting for a jury verdict for you guys?
Pretty much. You're in a room, a very small room. You just have to sit feet away from the man who killed your mother. It's not something very easily to do.
You can feel a palpable chill walking into the room.
A chill in the room. I'm trying to imagine, I mean, Jeanette and Tippy see you as their mom's killer. What was it like to sit face to face with them?
I have so much sadness for those two little girls, and the fact that they are looking at me as the culprit is tragic. But still, at the same time, it's something I have to face.
Video cameras were prohibited at the hearing, but 48 Hours was granted permission to document it with a still camera. Is there a part of you that just wants to lunge across the room?
Always. Every time.
Always. How do you control that?
You just have to. Me jumping up and going across the table isn't going to benefit anybody. So I think you just have to grin and bear it and hold the bottom of your seat to keep yourself from jumping out of it.
We weren't allowed to photograph the two commissioners, a man and a woman, who presided over the hearing. Like trial lawyers, they grilled Ott about the crime and his time in prison. It's up to them to decide whether he'll get parole. They are Dennis Ott's judge and jury.
At its most basic level, our parole hearings in California, what we look at is who was the person at the time of the crime, who are they today, and what's the difference?
Jennifer Schaefer is the executive director of California's Board of Parole Hearings.
Has parole been successful in California?
Yes, it has been quite successful in California.
Why do you say that?
Because the recidivism rate is so low.
Recidivism is when a person who's served time in jail or prison commits another crime.
The recidivism rate for people who've been given parole after being sentenced to life is
yes.
What?
Less than 1% in California. It's a very difficult process. We have to find that the person no longer poses an unreasonable risk to public safety. The people that get out are people that have truly changed.
Dennis Ott believes he has changed, and he says he wants to help other inmates, veterans like him, if he's granted parole.
When you look at your file, it sounds like you're a model prisoner. Are you?
Well, I believe so. I've also earned a couple of associate degrees in the last couple of years. You know, I'm doing everything I can, trying to make the best of a bad situation.
Tippy and Jeanette have said that the only reason you're doing all of these things is to make it look good when you come up in front of that parole commission.
It's not true. I'm doing what I feel is only the right thing to do.
And explain to me, how are we supposed to believe that?
Well, that's something you're either going to have to believe or not believe. I mean, I think that actions speak louder than words.
He's over 60 years old now. He's served more than 20 years.
Sutter County District Attorney Amanda Hopper represented Tippy and Jeanette at Ott's parole hearing and prepared them for the possibility he could be released.
I explained to them that I thought he had a decent chance.
Do you think that Dennis Ott is a dangerous man still?
I absolutely do. I absolutely think he is a danger to society in general and probably to the family.
What makes you so sure?
Because I sat there and I watched him and I watched the anger in his face. But more importantly, I've seen that he has absolutely no concept of accountability.
And that may be a sticking point at his hearing. Ott has always said he didn't kill his wife. And while inmates don't have to show remorse to get parole, Ott knows it might help. You know what, Dennis? It almost seems like it would be easier, certainly for Jeanette and Tippy, and maybe easier for you if you just admitted it.
Admit guilt. How interesting. It's not that I haven't thought about that. It would have been actually a whole lot easier a long time ago to say, yeah, I did this crime. But that's not true. I didn't kill Pong. I'm not going to say I did.
Whatever the parole board decides, they are keenly aware the hearing process can be stressful for everyone in the room.
When people come to a parole hearing, it's because they feel compelled to come. It's not that we mandate that they be there.
Is it fair to these victims' families?
It's such a loaded question. Do I think it's fair that they have to go through the trauma of parole hearings? No. But I would not want us to do that process without sitting down and having a live hearing with the inmate.
Hahn's family listened patiently for more than 4 hours during Ott's parole hearing. Then it was Jeanette's turn to speak.
What did you want the commissioners to understand?
That he hasn't changed, that our family is victimized over and over again. I want them to know that even behind bars, there's a sense of control that he still holds and has and tries to maintain.
The little girl who once hid behind a door during that explosive argument between her mother and stepfather stared him down and didn't hold back.
He deserves to rot and die in prison. Plain and simple. He took everything from us. Everything. And I want to take everything from him now.
CBS Mornings is clearly fun.
Money saving. Dollar Jill's here to tell us what it means for you.
Clearly delish.
So what's on the menu today?
Clearly, CBS Mornings weekdays at 7 on CBS.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
Write a prescription for the healing of America.
We're retired and this is our paradise.
Now it's gone.
You get the stories of America every night. You get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This is CBS.
I had progressively fallen deeper into the world of online sports betting.
The risk is the rush.
What do you think is driving the spike in popularity?
I think it's legality.
If it's legal, I'm going to use it. There are ways to bet when you are 18.
We've created an epidemic of child gambling.
You can't walk into a male dormitory in a college campus without sports betting happening.
It's America's most neglected problem.
I used sports betting as a way to escape, when in reality, I'm choosing self-destruction. Whatever I had left, it was gone.
The purpose of the industry is to get you to play to extinction. And that means until all your money is gone.
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
Ta-da!
I want to be part of this.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
You've probably heard of the NCIS from the hit TV series, but we're about to take you inside its real-life work. Listen to 48 Hours NCIS early and ad-free on the 48 Hours Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts.
Okay, let's go.
You guys good?
Start at the beginning.
All right, we good?
Keep going.
The clock, it's ticking.
Off we go.
60 minutes. Is this what you want?
60 minutes.
60 minutes!
It's time for 60 Minutes, Sundays on CBS.
While the parole board decides Dennis Ott's fate, Tippy and Jeanette wait. They have families of their own now and can only imagine what life would be like if their mother's killer is set free.
I don't want to see him outside of the walls of that prison, which is where he needs to be, where he deserves to be. I don't want my children to ever see him, but I'm not scared of him.
If you had a chance to see him one-on-one, what would you do?
I don't know. I'm sure there'll be a lot of words exchanged. And I'm pretty certain I wouldn't be able to sit in my seat as I am now.
Look at Tippy and Jeanette, you know? This monster took their mother away at the worst possible time in their lives.
How about you? What are your emotions?
Look at my hand right now.
Angry.
Angry.
I'll be 93 in November, and I hope Dennis can come home. I hope we can have some good years together, because he deserves it.
Marin Atkinson is anxious to spend her final years with her son Dennis as a free man. She knows life is short, and tomorrow is not promised.
I'm living because I want him to get out. I feel like if I become 100, I'll go up there and bang on the doors. And, you know, really, it doesn't make sense that he has to stay in prison.
But for now, his cell will be his home. After 5 hours of testimony, the board would take less than 1 hour to decide Ott should stay in prison. Parole denied.
So, Dennis, why do you think you didn't get parole?
Why didn't I get parole? The fact that I do not accept or admit culpability for this crime. They always go back to that.
The parole commissioners called you evasive. Were you being evasive?
I don't believe I'm being evasive. I don't believe I'm giving them the answers they expect to hear.
That moment when you heard parole denied, how'd you feel?
You exhale. You get a brief sense of satisfaction.
Another small victory.
Yeah.
But we'll be back here again. And hopefully again.
When the hearing was over, an observer noticed one of the commissioners, the man, seemed teary-eyed.
These decisions that the parole commissioners are making are life-changing, obviously, for the inmates, yes, for victims' families. How heavily does that weigh on them?
It's a very difficult job. Reading the crime reports, reading transcripts of criminal trials, it weighs very heavily on them.
In less than 2 years, Ott gets yet another chance for parole. His life sentence has become their life sentence, too.
It doesn't end. It never ends for the families. We're victimized over and over again. It's frustrating.
In the meantime, Jeanette and Tippy are waging their next battle.
In March of 2015, I was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. And in June or July, we learned it spread to my pelvis area. And at that point, because it had metastasized, I was bumped to stage 4.
Do you ask that? Why me? My gosh, didn't you suffer enough?
What more can one person be given in one lifetime?
She has to get through it. I can't be without her. She's all I have left. And she'll beat it like she always does. I love you.
Love you too.
When they were young, Jeanette and Tippy often wondered about the fishermen who discovered their mother.
Come on, girls, Grandpa's here. I won't bite.
And over the years, he wondered about them too. We arranged for the three of them to meet.
My goodness, look at you two. You don't look anything like I remember. It's a pleasure.
Told you to keep it together.
Oh, that's all right.
Thank you.
They met for the very first time at a marina on the Sacramento River.
My, you've grown up into some good-looking chickens.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's the place where their mother, Pawn, was found.
It was right here. It's where we brought your mother in.
Where would we be if you had not found her?
There's no telling, darling.
I know.
It's a chance to look back with gratitude before starting down the rough road ahead.
Look at us 20 years later, and it's just as hard today as it was yesterday. And the year before that, and the day it happened. It doesn't end.
Wow. It's so peaceful out here.
It is.
Ready?
Yeah. You ready?
And 1, 2, 3.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is clear.
CBS Mornings is the best way to start your day. Clearly.
Look at this outfit, amazing. Give me some love, baby.
We got a toy. Look at this.
Oh, no!
Clearly fun. Hi, Otis. Hi.
Smart.
We've got tips to save on clothes, tech,
and more. Clearly uplifting. I'm getting goosebumps right now.
Oh, my heart is soaring.
Oh, I got one.
Ooh, okay. What do you got? I can't wait. Ooh.
The light bulb went off right here. I saw it go.
Okay, watch this. CBS Mornings is clearly brighter.
Ooh.
It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. It's a bright, bright, bright way to start your day. Clearly, CBS Mornings weekdays at 7 on CBS.
This is CBS.
What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
I'm not asking that we ignore disability, rather that we do not ignore ability.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight. The CBS News original 60 Minutes opens its archives.
Pretty loose for a Friday night.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not my first show.
With moments you haven't heard before.
It's almost more fun that way when you have something to prove.
Listen to 60 Minutes, a second look, wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go, with 48 Hours podcasts. Real crimes, real lives, real justice. Listen to 48 Hours podcasts wherever you get your podcasts.
Sunday morning, finding their future in the past. Plus Succession's Sarah Snook. And We're in the Garden with Martha Stewart. Listen for the trumpet.
It was 7 a.m. I don't know whether it was the house alarm that woke me up or the gunfire. I had no idea what was going on and what had happened until I heard my mother screaming. And then more shots, and they were pretty rapid. I heard a real lot of dry firing. I knew that the gun was empty, and I went far enough to be able to see into the bathroom, and I saw my father laying on the floor with blood. I can still see my father every time I close my eyes.
911 emergency.
Yes, this is Admiral Scope Security. I'm calling in because we have a dead person at 408 Mariner.
Mr. Horowitz was a 66-year-old gentleman who was found deceased in his home on September 30th of 2011.
Did he shoot himself?
That's what it sounds like to me.
Okay, so he committed suicide.
Correct.
Impossible. Never believed the suicide for 10 seconds. Everybody loved Lanny. My brother had a lot to live for. Nobody lived like Lanny. He lived like royalty.
There's only two people in the house, Radley and his mother, Donna. Donna and Lanny had been married, divorced, and remarried, and divorced again.
Well, I don't know who killed Lanny Horowitz, but I know it wasn't Donna.
My father did some really, really awful stuff to me and to my mother.
Rad did not like his father one bit. He hated him. Absolutely hated him.
He was an absolute, just evil bastard. Did you shoot Dad? No, absolutely not.
There were a lot of guns in the house. I've never seen that many guns in someone's house.
All three of them were gun aficionados, including Donna.
This family puts the fun in dysfunctional.
Not only was he murdered with such indifference. He died like Caesar, surrounded by enemies.
It boils down to a motive as old as time, and that's love, hate, and obsession.
I think I asked direct questions. I don't know that they're tough questions per se. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives? So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like healthcare. That's the role of Face the Nation, to focus on the issues at hand. That means a civil conversation with perspective.
Sunday morning, Wicked Oscar nominee Cynthia Erivo. A few words from Flo, plus 100 years of The New Yorker. Listen for the trumpet.
It was almost like being face-to-face with the devil.
Women riding bicycles dismembered.
She just vanished.
48 Hours reports. I fought and fought.
911, what is your emergency?
She disappeared off the face of the earth. Ever think in your wildest dreams someone might want to kill you?
This almost became a game of psychological warfare.
You're caught. You're gonna go down.
Stream 48 Hours, 24/7. CBS Sunday night.
Here we go.
The ultimate tradition continues.
From what I've seen, it's like chaos.
America's longest-running news magazine show is back.
For 60 minutes!
60 minutes.
With a new season.
Hey, let's go.
You're willing to talk about anything.
I'm open to all of it.
Ask me the hard-hitting questions.
So how do you get over the nerves?
Honestly, it's a whole bunch of mind
The most influential people.
Who's the best coach in college football?
Let me see a mirror so I can look at it.
Are you a billionaire yet?
None of your business, and you trying to get me robbed?
Investigative journalism.
Am I getting a real look at what life is like in here today? Absolutely not.
Do you think people visiting know that these were looted?
When stories threaten our way of life, 60 Minutes demands answers.
This is the pager that Hezbollah was using.
Do you have hope that you may find him yet?
They were asking me to do something that was illegal.
They're fighting for faulty parts?
Yeah.
What is the most important takeaway for our audience?
How big of a problem is doping? Where was the military?
Why are people suspicious?
That sounds like a problem.
How is this possible?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
What is going on?
I'm Scott Pelley.
I'm John Worth.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Bill Whitaker.
I'm Sharon Alfonsi.
I'm Cecilia Vega.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
This is 60 Minutes.
The CBS News original.
Showtime, baby.
It's time for 60 Minutes Sunday on CBS. Don't miss a minute. Now streaming. What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
I'm not asking that we ignore disability, rather that we do not ignore ability.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
I still want to know exactly what happened that morning.
Radley Horowitz was asleep at his parents' Jupiter, Florida home on September 30th, 2011, when he woke up to a nightmare.
I jumped out of bed and heard, I don't know how many shots.
Disoriented and defenseless, with the house alarm blaring, Radley stayed in his room, not knowing if the shooter would make him the next target.
I was basically pacing back and forth in my room like a trapped rat, and I was afraid to go out that door there.
You don't know who's been shot? You don't know who's got the gun in their hands?
I could hear my mom screaming my name.
When the shooting stopped, Radley rushed down the hall into his parents' bedroom. He looked into the master bathroom and saw his father, 66-year-old Lanny Horowitz.
I was scared and I ran out of there. He looked like he was certainly beyond any help.
When you came out, what was your mother's state? Was she sobbing? Was she panicked? Was she what?
She was hysterical.
Radley says he then left his mother, Donna, so he could turn off that house alarm. A security officer in this gated community rushed to the house.
He was at the door in a flash.
Security made that 911 call.
We had an alarm go off over there, and our medic responded.
I received a call to respond to Admiral's Cove for a death investigation, possible suicide.
Detective Eric Frank of the Jupiter Police Department responded and found 3 family members that lived at the home.
There was Lanny's ex-wife, Donna. They actually were divorced, but they were still living together. Their son, Radley, lived with them.
Frank spoke to Luis Garcia, the Admiral's Cove security guard who found Lanny with the gun in his hand and was one of the few to speak to Donna that morning.
I said, was anything going on last night? She said, he said he was going to do this. And I said, what, kill himself? She said, yes.
There was blood everywhere. It was very hard to determine what were gunshot wounds at that point. Once I stepped into the bathroom and looked back towards the shower door, you can plainly see the bullet hole through the glass and through the towel that was hanging over the door. And that made me stop everyone where we were and say that something's wrong here.
It wasn't until the coroner moved Lanny's body 10 hours later that it became clear this was no suicide. Lanny had been shot 9 times.
Based on our investigation, Lanny was shot while he was in the shower first, and as he's getting out of the shower, He was shot multiple additional times to where he fell and was basically executed on that floor.
Violent crimes are almost unheard of in this wealthy development called Admiral's Cove.
Admiral's Cove is a beautiful development. Lanny had a beautiful home on the water, and it was a prestigious place to live.
Lanny's older brother, Barry.
They call me Captain Barry.
And Captain Barry is never seen without his signature captain's hat. He says at one time, Lanny and Donna lived a life most people would envy.
They had homes all over the country. They were able to travel all over the world. He had sailboats, he had airplanes. Anything life could offer was there for them.
Your brother was a business whirlwind, wasn't he? I mean, incredibly gifted businessman.
Absolutely, I won't argue with that. Lanny was a millionaire at a very early age. At 16, he was a real estate salesman for my father, who did commercial real estate. Within a short time, he became a real estate broker, and he took to it like nothing I've ever seen.
The only thing Lanny seemed to make time for was his high school sweetheart, Donna.
Donna was a knockout. I think Lanny was obsessed. He loved her. He didn't want to date anybody else, and they were always together.
The lovebirds married in 1967.
It was a great home life. My parents were the greatest people in the world.
Donna was a stay-at-home mom, and Radley was their only child. But after 30 years of marriage, his parents' relationship became a soap opera.
Your parents were first married in Buffalo in 1967.
Correct, yes.
Divorced in May of 2001, remarried in September 2001, and then divorced again in June 2002.
That sounds about right. It was a roller coaster, yes.
What led to the first divorce?
My mother felt that she was being ignored and wound up getting picked up by a fellow that worked there that was a security guard. My father was so incensed and disgusted.
But after 9 years of seeing each other sporadically, the on-again, off-again couple reconciled in 2011, as described in Donna's day planner turned journal. She called Lanny by her pet name, Lanbo. So happy Lanbo and I are getting back together. By April 2011, Donna had moved back into the Admiral's Cove house with Lanny and Radley, a single dad who worked for his father.
And my father's line was, you know, we're all going to be a family again. It did not work out that way, and my father's behavior towards her very, very much changed. He had never forgiven her for leaving him. That was very obvious, and personality-wise, he could be a difficult person to get along with.
But Radley could never imagine his parents' relationship coming to such a violent end, he says, if it wasn't for this woman.
My parents had their ups and downs and their problems, but this never would have happened if it was not for Francine Tice.
I can see clearly now.
Clearly, CBS Mornings.
Weekdays on CBS.
Yeah!
Tony, coming? No, I'm gonna stick around for an hour.
Hey! CBS Mornings Plus with Adriana Diaz and Tony DeCopel, right after CBS Mornings.
It's just like mornings.
Plus fun.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
Politics isn't a game. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives? Politics is about policy. So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like healthcare? I'm a voracious consumer of information, and I'm impatient. I don't like to be spun.
Do you know if there are active terror cells in the United States right now?
To be moderator of Face the Nation means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
While America's relaxing policies around social media and the internet, Germany is cracking down on lies and vitriol online.
How do people react when you take their phones from them?
They are shocked.
Which approach makes more sense? Plus, Timothy Chalamet only on 60 Minutes.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go with the 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes.
Like a John Grisham novel come to life.
Real lives.
He pointed a gun to me and said, "This is the day you die." And he shot me.
Real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
I'm an innocent man, and I hope the whole world can see it now.
Catch the latest episodes. Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
The all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This is CBS.
There's no question that this is a tragic, horrible, horrible case.
Assistant State Attorney Aletha McRoberts was at the crime scene that day, and Lanny's bullet-ridden body told her this was no ordinary homicide case.
It was clear that this was a statement that was being made by the shooter.
Radley Horowitz was described as stoic, while his mother Donna appeared visibly upset. Assistant State Attorney Lauren Godden.
At the scene, she shuts down, she does not talk to police, and she does not talk to anyone. She puts her fingers over her ears and mouths, "I can't hear you."
There was no forced entry into the home. There was nothing.
CSI investigator Tracy McClendon began processing the crime scene, shooting video and pictures.
And this is the bathroom in which the incident took place. And inside the shower, we have the bullet hole here.
As investigators look for clues, they discovered an arsenal of weapons.
This is a photograph of firearms that were found in the home.
From handguns to assault rifles, 26 in all, and thousands of rounds of ammunition in military-style ammo boxes.
This is all in the same house?
Correct.
Most of them were registered to Lanny and his son Radley, a former licensed gun dealer and enthusiast.
Unusual, based on your experience?
I've never seen that many guns in someone's house.
But it was these 2 revolvers that were found in the master bedroom area that were of immediate interest. One gun was Donna's, and the other was registered to Lanny.
There was the firearm that had been in his hand. It's a 5-shot Smith & Wesson revolver. And there's another gun sitting right on top of the dresser. Both of those guns were matched to projectiles in and around Lanny.
Incredibly, even though Radley and his mother were obvious persons of interest, cops let them leave.
We let them leave the scene because we wanted to have that time to build that case as best we can.
In virtually every murder case I've ever been involved with, if you have a body in a house and you have 2 people and you believe that one of those 2 people is the killer, you take them to the police house, you separate them, and you question them. That was not done here.
You can't arrest somebody just for suspicion of murder. The initial focus is clearly it's just Donna and Radley, but we didn't take that at face value alone.
Police spent days collecting evidence and going through the family's personal belongings.
What are you learning?
We're learning that this is a very dysfunctional house.
One very telling item that was recovered was that journal Donna kept.
In the beginning of the journal, she talks about all the positive things.
He couldn't stop hugging me, Donna wrote, and telling me how much he misses me.
She was spending time with her granddaughter.
To the library.
Radley has a daughter. Her name is Gianna. It's a situation where she is very hopeful.
She was excited when Lanny asked her to move back in with him. Lanny loves me and I love him, and I want to help him. Even though it seemed to come with a catch, to loan him $200,000. His once lavish lifestyle had been left in shreds after their divorces, the recession, and bad business dealings. Very special day when Lanny asked about $200,000 to keep both houses afloat and move back in and reconcile. Great day. But just 5 months later,
we see from the entries, her mental state was becoming more and more fragile.
My heart is broken, and he is working on my mind, playing games with me. It was during that time that Donna became obsessed with Francine Tice.
Francine Tice lived down the street from our house.
Lanny told his family that he and Francine were business partners.
Before Mila?
Selling a health food product for a company called LifeMax.
Did they have a business relationship, a personal relationship?
They claimed that it was business, but I saw that it was more than that.
How did you know this was more than a business relationship?
Oh, I mean, I saw it. I saw pictures. They were always out together.
Even Lanny's family noticed a change in him after meeting Francine.
They were holding hands, kid stuff. It's the first time I saw Lanny happy in 40 years.
Francine spoke at length to 48 Hours about Lanny, but would not do an on-camera interview. She vehemently denies having ever had a sexual relationship with him. But Donna pictured something else and began documenting Francine's comings and goings. Fran texted Landbo at midnight, woke us up. Lanny left at 1:15 to go on an errand with Fran, didn't return until 4:15 p.m.
It was a daily contact with Francine and Lanny via in person and in text and in phone calls.
Now, Francine Tice has said that there was not a physical relationship between her and Lanny, that this was a business partnership.
What was important for our purposes was that Donna believed that they were intimate.
Landbo home, 7:30 p.m., trying to act like he isn't with Fran all the time.
I think she's heartbroken and angry, and probably angry with herself for being so foolish.
Foolish, Radley now says, for believing Lanny still loved her and giving him that $200,000.
It became obvious to my mother that, that she had been duped.
By September 2011, it was clear their on-again, off-again relationship was over because Radley believes of Francine.
She is the most phony, vicious, backstabbing, vile, quintessential Disney villain monster that I think I've ever encountered.
McRoberts says Lanny told Donna he wanted her out of the house before he came back from a business trip, one he was taking with Francine.
This is a woman who has reached the end of her rope. This was Donna who was not about to let him go on that trip with Francine.
Police believed they now had their killer. Just 6 days after Lanny was brutally shot 9 times, Donna was arrested for his murder.
Donna is a very meek, timid, soft-spoken individual.
Gray Tesh is Donna's attorney.
Who had the motive, who had the opportunity, who may have had the grudge to commit this murder?
Both Donna and Radley. But see, here's the difference, though. Donna left him twice before. Why now?
Most of my life, my father was a good person, but towards the end, he was an absolute, just evil bastard.
It's just that attitude that makes Tesh say cops got it all wrong and that Radley is the real killer.
So all the motivation that is raised by investigators in this case for Donna wanting to shoot her husband, you're telling me Radley had that in spades?
He had more motivation to off his father.
Here comes a big one.
What I've seen, it's like chaos.
This is the pager that Hezbollah was using.
How is this possible?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
Ask me the hard-hitting questions. I'm open to all of it.
60 minutes. Is this what you want?
60 minutes.
60 minutes!
It's time for the CBS News original, 60 Minutes, Sundays on CBS.
When you need your sports news all the time,
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights
What a finish at the final round of play.
and in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
A great adventure together.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
So cool.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Something that's undeniable.
With mindfulness.
innovative,
Magical.
It's like being a child.
and truly original reporting.
How'd you do your research?
I tell a good story.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is clear.
Actually, two things. Pretty sure it's three.
Guys, whether it's news, money, health, or wellness, sports, movies, or even inspiration.
Clearly, CBS Mornings is the place to be. That's like 7 things.
Okay, clearly, I'm bad at math, always been.
Clearly.
Oh, okay,
Clearly.
okay. Clearly, CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7 on CBS.
What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
Anyone that doesn't agree women should be in the submarine force has to ask themselves why they would think about that.
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
Life is a little bit different now.
It's gonna take a while to get used to. And I say it to myself that I can't make this about me.
When we put people before politics.
What would happen if it was harder for Mexican residents to come over to work in Presidio?
I think we'd be in serious trouble. Are you okay, ma'am?
What happens when you experience the story?
I'm shocked at how devastated this neighborhood is. How bad is it in your house?
Look at it.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
Here in Chicago.
Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
My life, up until everything exploded, was great.
In less than 1 week, Radley had lost both his parents. His father murdered. His mother in jail, accused of killing him.
Did you ask your mother what happened?
No, never. What do you say other than, I mean, I wanted to know what happened, but I was afraid to ask.
Donna's attorney, Gray Tesh, says there are a lot of holes in the case.
If she was the shooter, she would have blood all over her body, everywhere. The shooter, I think, was someone taller than Donna because of the angle. If you look at the autopsy report, if you look at the angle, they consistently say that they go downwards.
Tesh starts building a shocking defense, pointing the finger directly at Donna's own son, Radley Horowitz.
For some people, this is the ultimate betrayal. A mother, through you, accusing her own son of a murder to save her own skin.
That's what the evidence showed.
Why do you believe Radley killed his father?
He had 500,000 reasons to kill him.
Radley alone stood to inherit $500,000 in life insurance money, 2 homes, and Lanny's other prized assets. Donna, as Lanny's ex-wife, wouldn't have received a penny.
So today, are you a multimillionaire as a result of all this?
No, no. He left me 2 houses that were pretty much upside down and some very nice cars, most of which I got rid of. But I kept the Aston Martin.
But back in 2011, when his father was murdered, Radley's finances were a mess. That's why he was living with his parents.
You were struggling, correct?
Oh, yeah. Get a job as a convicted felon.
That's right. This son of a one-time millionaire served time in prison. Before his arrest, Radley was a licensed gun dealer in a business his father helped him set up, Jupiter Arms.
It was my passion. I took to it like a fish to water. I was just absolutely lethal but disciplined and responsible.
Years earlier, Radley says, at his father's urging, he bought an illegal gun part online for his personal collection, which could convert a Glock pistol into a fully automatic weapon.
My father said his exact words were, just order it.
That attracted the attention of federal law enforcement, and Radley says his father took great delight in his misfortune.
He got a real kick out of the fact that those ATF guys were there and loved, saying I told you so and stuff like that.
Then, in 2006, Radley was arrested by the ATF after selling a handgun to a felon.
And that's serious, right?
Oh, hell yes. I wound up with 5 months in federal prison.
Do you blame your father for the fact that you ended up in prison?
Ultimately, yes.
Is there enough resentment for you to shoot him?
Hey, that's, what the hell does that solve?
What better way, it's alleged, to get your financial house in order than to off your father who'd been tormenting your mother?
And it wasn't always very nice to me either.
Radley said his father was never physically abusive, but that years of verbal taunting was in some ways far worse.
My dad, could be extremely nasty. The psychological death of 1,000 cuts never lets up. Just snide, sarcastic, aloof.
Still, as prosecutors compile their case, they feel strongly that all the signs point to Radley's mother.
Is this shooting 10 times? Is this a son that's angry? Or is this an angry wife that has snapped?
Donna was so angry, investigators believe, she used the last of the 10 bullets to make a brutal statement by shooting Lanny in the mouth.
Why shoot him in the mouth?
I think she was tired of his mouth. I think she was tired of him being cruel and biting and condescending.
Things are not good here, she confided in her journal. His comments are insulting. A week after the murder, Radley goes to the police station with his attorney to give a full statement.
She was saying, he was so awful, he was so awful. She said that twice.
Donna says to Radley, he was so awful. Are those words a confession to you?
Absolutely. Her immediate response, her gut reaction when she sees someone, is to start justifying what she did.
The quote, too, by the way, he was so awful, right? Police never heard that. He doesn't say that on scene. He says that a week later after he lawyers up.
Tesh believes that Radley made up both that quote and the story about the dry fires.
You're hearing, as you call it, the dry fire.
Click, 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 yeah,
click, click.
Empty. When I heard the clicking in my mind, at least, I knew that I was safe.
Well, he's full of crap. Tell me, how can you hear dry fires when you got a DEFCON alarm going off? And by the way, his bedroom's on one side of the house, the master bedroom's completely on the other side of the house.
But unlike Donna, Detective Frank says Radley cooperated fully on scene.
He gives us a DNA standard. He allows my CSI to conduct a gunshot residue test on him.
What was the result of that test?
And it did come back as negative for gunshot residue.
Donna wasn't given a gunshot residue test after she asked to speak with an attorney.
She didn't want to answer any of your questions?
Nothing.
Tesh says police botched the investigation by never collecting and examining Donna's pajamas or Radley's clothes the morning of the murder.
Nobody says she had blood on her pajamas. The police were right next to her. They're right next to her. They would have noticed that.
And Tesh says the state has little to support their claim that Donna was the shooter.
They ain't got squat. Here's what they got. They got no fingerprints on either one of the weapons, right? Or the shell casings. No DNA specifically linking her. Nothing. Nada. Zip.
This is a circumstantial case.
It is.
You have a journal in which she complains about her husband, but she never in the journal says, I'm going to kill him.
Correct.
It isn't just the journal, it's how the journal explains the crime scene, why it would have been done in such a cruel and hateful manner.
As the case goes to trial, prosecutors insist they have the right person.
There's absolutely no question that Donna Horowitz shot and murdered her husband, Lanny.
But the defense says Radley's own words speak volumes about his motive.
This sounds awful, but I am glad that he was up and alive long enough to know that what comes around goes around, and that this was the payback for everything that he had done to not only my mother, but to me.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
This was an entire building. It will take years to rebuild.
We're from CBS News, American television.
You get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This case,
it's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Like a John Grisham novel.
A gripping true crime original. 48 hours. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is clear.
CBS Mornings is the best way to start your day.
I can see clearly now.
My morning routine.
The first thing I do when I wake up is turn off the alarm.
I try to remember where I put my phone down.
One alarm goes off at 4 a.m.
I need not 1, not 2, but...
And I'm out the door at 4:15.
3 snoozes to get out of bed fully coherent.
How much detail are you looking for?
I love a bath full of bubbles. The more bubbles, the better.
I'm very quick with the actual coffee, shave, shower, dressed out the door, but all around that is just pure chaos. For example, this morning, these are dirty socks.
You want my honest answer? Am I a morning person? I gotta be honest. I wish morning started at like 10 a.m. Can I say that? Clearly.
It's a bright way to start your day. CBS Mornings weekdays at 7 on CBS.
People with developmental disabilities were once sequestered by the hundreds of thousands in institutions.
Many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower.
Disability activists have since torn down barriers blocking them from living at home or in the community.
We conclude that Title II of the ADA requires states to provide community-based treatment for persons with mental disabilities.
But of the 16,000 people who remain in state-operated institutions, half are in 5 states, and Illinois is one of them.
I don't want to live in the institution. It makes me feel discriminated against.
Do you think there are people living in institutions in Illinois that don't need to be living there?
Yeah, because they're proving it as soon as they get out.
What happens when we follow the human side of the headline?
I was in tears.
Life is a little bit different now.
It's gonna take a while to get used to. And I said to myself that I can't make this about me.
You get the all-new CBS Evening News.
Almost a year and a half after Lanny Horowitz was murdered, prosecutors are ready to present their case in court.
I think the essence of the case from the very beginning was this was about a woman scorned.
And the accused, scorned woman looked nearly unrecognizable to Lanny's sisters, Marcia Van Creevell and Sheila Goldberg.
She looked like a witch. She had this beautiful, gorgeous black hair, gorgeous eyelashes, and here's this little skinny thing with this gray hair and glasses.
Attorney Gray Tesh has settled on what could be called the ultimate betrayal defense, accusing Donna's son to save her own skin.
He's a spoiled child who thinks he's entitled to everything. He's got to fund his lifestyle somehow, and God knows he ain't working for it.
It's shocking to people that your mother would agree to a defense that accuses her own son.
I don't know if it was so much agreeing to a defense as it was a case of him saying, hey, this is your only shot.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification of States Exhibits 1 and 2. Do you recognize those guns?
McRoberts brought the guns up to me, or at least one of them, in court and showed it to me, and there was blood all over it.
And Tesh believes there is evidence that some of that blood ended up in Radley's own sink.
This right here, this is when I did the luminol testing.
CSI officer Tracy McClendon analyzed every sink in the Horowitz house.
This is Radley's bathroom. He was very clean. You can see the entire sink is full. The faucet is covered. Everything is covered and glowing.
Could this not be blood?
The glow was really, really bright, and it faded quick, which tells me that it's more of a cleaning solution than blood. Blood will glow a little lighter, and it will last a little longer.
McClendon testified that all the sinks in the house had a similar reaction, which may poke a hole in Tesh's theory.
We do it to show blood, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that is blood.
Could be bleach, right, or household products or things like that.
Yes.
Right, it's possible.
Yes.
It's also possible that it's blood, though, right?
Yes.
But Tesh claims it's proof that Radley, a known neat freak, washed his father's blood off his hands.
You clean yourself. I mean, you're obsessive about cleaning. I will bet you that you even have it. $100 says you've got a bottle in your pocket right now.
Guilty. Guilty of having Purell.
Right. Thanks for the clarification.
Don't want to get you too excited, sorry.
Give me a sense of what you need to convey to this jury.
Somebody else did it.
That somebody else, Tesh claims, may include a hitman hired by Radley. Tesh says this smear of Lanny Horowitz's blood on a gate at his home contains DNA from an unidentified person.
Someone else's DNA is on that bloody smudge on the gate. Someone else was involved with this. It wasn't Donna, it wasn't Radley, it wasn't any of the security guards.
Is that the gate that everyone has to come in and out of to go through the front door?
Yes, it is.
The state says the mystery DNA is meaningless.
The smudge on the post has Lanny's blood on it and the DNA of someone else who did not match anyone in that house. Isn't that your killer?
No. When they swab the gate to get the blood off of it, it picks up the underlying DNA of anyone that ever touched that gate since the last time it was ever cleaned, which could be countless numbers of people.
And to prove that no intruder was responsible, prosecutors point to the alarm system in the house.
The very first alarm was, in fact, the glass shatter alarm from the sound of the gun being fired in the bathroom, which meant and corroborated that no other person had come into the home prior to the first shot being fired.
Tesh tries to back up his new theory by introducing Hitman, a technical manual for independent contractors.
You bought the Hitman book at a gun show, yes?
Yes, that is correct.
And the essence of this Hitman book is it teaches you how to kill somebody and get away with it, yes?
As opposed to killing somebody and getting caught, yes.
McRoberts says the hitman theory is bogus because Lanny Horowitz was killed with his own gun.
What hitman would go to do a hit and hope to God that people had a gun that they could find to complete the killing?
Your hitman theory. The problem I see with that is that Donna's in the house. She would have seen this hitman, wouldn't she?
If you're in your house and you hear shots, do you just go out and run out to see what's going on, especially if you don't have a gun on you? Or do you stay somewhere safe?
He portrays me as a complete screw-up, a nitwit, and unemployed. So where am I going to come up with the money to hire some hitman?
There's someone in this case who can answer so many questions about what happened that morning, the morning of September 30th. And that's Donna herself.
Everyone wonders if Donna will finally break her silence.
Ms. Horowitz, ultimately, the decision to testify or not to testify is your call.
What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
Anyone that doesn't agree women should be in the submarine force has to ask themselves why they would think about that.
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
Life is a little bit different now.
It's gonna take a while to get used to. And I say it to myself that I can't make this about me.
When we put people before politics.
What would happen if it was harder for Mexican residents to come over to work in Presidio?
I think we'd be in serious trouble. Are you okay, ma'am?
What happens when you experience the story?
I'm shocked at how devastated this neighborhood is. How bad is it in your house?
Look at it.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
Here in Chicago.
Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
Ready?
Yeah. You ready?
And 1, 2, 3. Hey!
I can see clearly now.
Look at his outfit, amazing. Give me some love, baby.
We got a toy. Look at this.
Oh, no! Time for another quick meal you can make any night of the week.
We've got tips to save on clothes, tech,
and more.
How I got here is nothing short of like a miracle.
talent.
Talent.
It's gonna be alright.
It's a bright, bright, bright way to start your day.
See you
on CBS Mornings. Here comes a big one. What I've seen, it's like chaos.
This is the pager that Hezbollah was using.
How was this possible?
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
Ask me the hard-hitting questions. I'm open to all of it.
60 minutes. Is this what you want?
60 minutes.
60 minutes!
It's time for the CBS News original, 60 Minutes, Sundays on CBS.
I woke up to shooting and screaming.
In this Shakespearean drama, where an alleged murderous mother has accused her own son of killing his own father,
I didn't do this.
long hours of questioning takes its toll.
I want to get through this, but I'm just a little burned out.
Prosecutor Aletha McRoberts knew she had to save her star witness's reputation.
On the morning of the homicide of your father, did you ever go to any bathroom, any faucet, anywhere in that house and clean yourself off?
Absolutely not.
Mr. Horowitz, finally, did you hire anyone to kill your father?
Absolutely not.
And did you, yourself, kill your dad?
Absolutely not.
There were only 3 of us in that house, and only 2 walked out alive. So who else is he going to blame?
All right, so everybody have a seat.
When it came time for Donna to take the stand and openly accuse her son of murder, she declined.
Ms. Horowitz, it is your decision right now that you do not want to testify in this matter. Am I correct?
That is correct.
All right. Has anybody forced you to make that decision?
No, sir.
It is completely your call. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Radley wasn't in the courtroom to hear his mother speak.
So I did my day of testimony and I left. Why the hell would I want to be around those people?
The woman Radley blames for pushing his mother over the edge, Francine Tice, was never called to testify. She made her first appearance in court to hear closing arguments.
Bam, 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 bam. 10 times on a naked man when he's in the shower. The last one in the mouth is the shot of an angry, angry woman. Love, hate, and obsession can bring a person to kill, and it can bring a person to frame their own son. Thank you.
This is a case about jumping to conclusions.
Gray Tesh hammers back.
There's no fingerprints, there's no DNA matching her. A third party, we know beyond every doubt, left his DNA and that bloody smudge on the gate. Not only is she not guilty, she's actually innocent.
And with that, the jury goes out to deliberate. But not for long. In less than 2 hours...
Jurors, I understand you reached a verdict. Is that correct?
I'm thinking I won the case.
We find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder with
Shock, disappointment. I put my hand on her to try to console her, but, you know, what do you say?
I think our lawyer was a schmuck.
Though betrayed by his own mother, Radley doesn't want her behind bars.
You were hoping for not guilty.
Yes.
But if they said not guilty, then your name is mud in this community because they've convinced your fellow citizens that you're the killer.
Yeah, but my mom would have been out and free.
Sentencing was immediate and unforgiving.
Defense, I have no discretion in the matter, so I adjudicate her guilty. I impose a life sentence.
Life in prison with no chance for parole.
It's such a huge, immense feeling of relief, and to have the family there, to be able to see justice for the murder of their beloved brother.
Couldn't have done it without you, and couldn't have done it without you.
My brother was very special.
Almost 2 years after the murder, on what would have been Lanny's 68th birthday, his family and friends take to the sea to pay tribute.
I miss his true and honest friendship.
And Francine Tice spoke about the man she knew.
Today, in celebration of my friend Lanny's life on Earth, let us all never forget this most amazing and incredible human being who was always there for all of us, no matter what. Lanny, you will never be forgotten, and you will always be missed forever. My dear friend, may you now please rest in peace. And grace.
And together with Marcia, they set Lanny's ashes free in the Florida waters.
I've still got some pretty mixed feelings. I mean, there's not a day that I don't think of my mother and where she is right now.
Though betrayed by his mother, Radley forgives her. He has visited Donna in prison many times.
Has your mother ever just looked you in the eye and said, "I am so sorry"?
Just that she loves me very much and she's so sorry for everything.
Donna now wishes the best for her son.
I love you and I am very proud of you, and I pray daily that you will stay strong, healthy, and happy. Love always and forever, Mom. She was great. She was always there for me. She was a huge, huge part of my daughter's life.
See any lizards? Anything good?
Jealousy, murder, betrayal. A once picture-perfect family destroyed.
You know, he died with his eyes open. And I mean, my father did some really, really awful stuff to me and to my mother. But still seeing that just shook me up, you know. Nobody deserved to die the way that he did.
"4 years after being found guilty of killing her ex-husband Lanny, A very different-looking Donna Horwitz returned this past spring to a West Palm Beach courtroom. She had won the right to have a new trial after an appellate court overturned her conviction and life sentence. The court ruled that Donna's right to remain silent had been violated during closing arguments when prosecutor Alethea McRoberts told the jury that Donna had refused to speak to police at the crime scene.
All the officers, they thought this was a suicide call. They're over there trying to console Donna, and she says nothing. There is no right to remain silent at that time. You can take that as evidence of consciousness of guilt.
The Supreme Court of Florida agreed the jury should never have heard this, and so Donna got a new trial. There was no change in the prosecution's case against a now 70-year-old Donna Horwitz. Once again, McRoberts relied heavily on those journal entries.
Lanny said if he knew how Fran felt about him, he may not have gotten back with me.
McRoberts again argued that Donna had murdered her ex-husband Lanny out of anger and jealousy over his alleged relationship with former business associate Francine Tice, who testified about her relationship at this trial. Francine listened from the stand, smiling awkwardly as a voice message she left on Lanny's phone was played in open court.
You might want to meet for a drink or you want to come over for a cookie. Take care, buddy.
Yeah, it was the drink for a cookie. That was the drink. Want to come over for a cookie is the drink.
She didn't say drink or cookie.
Whatever I said, that's what it meant. Don't put words into my mouth, please. Okay, but stop.
But Francine continues to deny that their relationship was romantic.
Man is divorced 11 years. Why would I say come over for a cookie of what?
But the defense tried to mark Francine as a new suspect, suggesting she had a financial motive. Both Francine and Radley were beneficiaries of Lanny's life insurance policy.
Now, the $200,000 that Lanny left you, you didn't know until after he died, did you?
Absolutely did not know.
And the defense attorney gets Francine to admit she had a permit for a concealed weapon and knew how to use a gun.
Getting a concealed weapons permit would require you to get training in how to fire a firearm.
Yes.
But would any of this matter to the jury? In closing, McRoberts referenced the day of Lanny's murder in September of 2011.
Donna Horwitz, on September 30th, had had enough. It was over, and she now knew it.
After a 4-day trial and an initial deadlock, the jury reached a verdict.
We find the defendant guilty of second-degree murder, a lesser-included crime.
This time, Donna was convicted of second, not first-degree murder.
Please rise, come to order, court's back in session.
At her sentencing just last week, prosecutor McRoberts asked for the maximum sentence, life.
She's accepted zero responsibility, zero remorse.
While Donna's defense team gave an argument for leniency.
We have to look at, I think, the whole person. What we look at here is kind of a history of Donna Horwitz being a great mother, a great daughter, a great grandmother.
The judge agreed that Donna didn't fit the profile of a typical killer.
She is an older woman who, by all accounts, has been sweet and loving throughout her life. I don't know what snapped in you that day. I really don't.
But that didn't save her from a stiff sentence.
I hereby sentence you to 32 years in the Department of Corrections.
32 years with 6 years time served. At her age, virtually a life sentence. Donna could get out after serving 25 years, but she would be in her 90s. Radley now lives outside of the U.S., but came back to see his mother sentenced yet again.
I still can't help but feel a little bad for my mom. No matter what happens in life, just bite your tongue and hold your temper, because it doesn't take much to push some people over the edge.
can see clearly. CBS Mornings Plus, clearly more news, more smart conversation.
More money-saving tips, more recipes.
More uplifting ways to get you on your way.
Plus, more sports, more weather.
Clearly more CBS Mornings.
Plus,
sunshine.